Story 1. My wife brought her boyfriend home to announce her pregnancy. A web of lies, gun threats, and betrayal that shattered our family forever. Unaware that I was filming everything, my wife brought her boyfriend home to announce her pregnancy. But when I brought up the subject of divorce, he threatened me with a gun. Both of them are currently being charged with crimes. Sarah, 45F, and I, 47M, have been wed for 22 years. We were married shortly after graduating from college, having met through mutual acquaintances. My first and only committed relationship was with Sarah. While I developed my profession in software development, she worked as a marketing executive. Before everything broke apart last month, I believed that our marriage was going well. Our 2 children are Mike, 17M, a high school junior, and Jenny, 20F, a psychology major in her second year in college. Sarah joined a new gym approximately 4 months ago, which is when the issue began. She stated that she wished to lose weight before her 46th birthday. She stated that she would rather go alone in order to concentrate on herself, but I agreed with her choice and even offered to accompany her. I was initially pleased to see her taking care of herself. She began going to the gym more frequently, sometimes twice a day. I didn't question it because it appeared like she was happier and more lively. Then, however, things began to shift. She altered her haircut, bought brand new clothes, and spent all of her time on her phone. She would immediately switch apps or turn off her phone screen when I entered the room. She also said that her team had taken on a large project for a new customer, which caused them to start working late. She wouldn't always return home until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. I didn't give it much thought because I had total faith in her. I even took care of the kids' needs so she could concentrate on her work and made sure dinner was ready for her when she got home. However, we had less sex. She always had an excuse for not wanting to get intimate, like she was exhausted, had a headache, or had to get up early. For nearly 3 months, we went from having personal moments 2 or 3 times a week to none at all. I assumed she was under stress at work, so I didn't bring up the subject again. She texted me on a Friday night 3 weeks ago, stating that she needed to talk to me about something crucial. I assumed she wanted to discuss our forthcoming summer vacation plans, or that she had received the promotion she had been looking for. We had the home to ourselves because Mike was at football practice and Jenny was at her university library. Sarah wasn't by herself when she got home. She was accompanied by a tall, strong man who was most likely in his late 30s. Derek, 39M, was his name when she introduced him. Sarah revealed to us that she was 3 months pregnant and that Derek was the father as we sat down in the living room, the same space where we had celebrated our 20th anniversary 2 years prior. She claimed that they had a strong connection after meeting at the gym 8 months prior. She claimed that although she hadn't been content in our marriage for years, she had never had the guts to speak up. She said I didn't comprehend her emotional needs since I was too preoccupied with my work. With a smug expression on his face, Derek simply sat there, periodically massaging Sarah's back as though to console her. She clarified that they intended to begin a new life together after falling in love. She had spent the late evenings with him, not at work. They were meeting at the gym and going to his apartment, so it wasn't always just for working out. I thought I was in a strange nightmare. This woman, who had shed happy tears at Jenny's high school graduation, was the one who had helped me recover from pneumonia 3 years prior. She was seated in our house now, telling me that she was expecting a kid from another man. I told them both to get out right away. Things became ugly at that point. Derek got up and began shouting that since Sarah owned half the house, I couldn't throw her out. According to him, I had to man up and acknowledge that Sarah had moved on to someone better. I remained composed and informed them that they had to leave my house immediately because I would be filing for divorce early on Monday morning. Puffing up his chest like some phony macho person, Derek got in my face. Since he wouldn't allow me to interfere with his woman and his baby, he advised me to keep an eye on myself. I was uneasy about his tone, so I had already begun recording everything on my phone and partially concealed it behind a cushion on the couch. I said again that they had to go. Derek took a gun out of his waistband at that point. He pointed it right at my chest and threatened to make sure I felt bad if I attempted to make things tough on Sarah during the divorce. He claimed to be aware of my workplace, the children's school, and the fact that accidents happen all the time. Sarah remained silent as this man brandished a gun and threatened her husband of 22 years. She didn't act shocked that he was carrying a firearm, nor did she attempt to stop him. Her face was expressionless as she stared. I immediately phoned the police when they left and played the recording for them. Derek was taken into custody that evening for threatening to commit a crime while brandishing a lethal weapon. Sarah was also taken into custody for her involvement in the threat. The following day, they were both released on bail. Everything fell apart when the children noticed the police cruisers outside our house when they got home. When I told Jenny what had happened, she started crying. Mike secluded himself in his bedroom for 2 days after punching a hole in the wall. He only came out when I assured him that we would overcome this together. Both parents have been phoning constantly. Sarah informed her parents that I had been emotionally distant and that she felt stuck in our marriage. So they believe I'm being too severe and should drop the charges because she's pregnant and stressed. In contrast, my parents are enraged and want me to pursue every aspect of the divorce. I filed for divorce the following morning. According to my attorney, the tape will be very beneficial for the divorce and criminal case. Sarah has been phoning and messaging nonstop, accusing Derek of manipulating her and claiming she made a horrible error. She asserted that she would never wish to harm me and was unaware that he was armed. However, the footage reveals that she didn't appear startled or afraid when he produced the firearm. I've instructed her to contact us solely through our attorneys and blocked her number. The children won't talk to her. Jenny claims that she will never be able to forgive her mother for ruining our family. In addition to failing 2 classes, Mike's football coach called to report that he had been fighting during practice. We lost 22 years of marriage because she was unable to remain faithful. I glanced at our wedding pictures last night. We were quite joyful and youthful. I now have to go in court against her for the threats charged the following week. I have no regrets about bringing charges. In my own home, no one brandishes a pistol to threaten me, certainly not in front of the pictures of my kids that hang on the wall. Update 1. 2 weeks have passed since my last post. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone for their encouraging words and remarks. When I thought everything was crumbling, you kept me going. Let me now explain what has transpired since then. Last week was the hearing for the threat case. My lawyer and I got to the courthouse early. Derek and Sarah arrived together, both dressed as though they were attending church. Sarah kept attempting to get my attention, but I was preoccupied with my phone. Their attorney, a slick man in a fancy suit, attempted to portray me as an angry, domineering spouse who threatened to leave Sarah bankrupt and homeless. He asserted that Derek only displayed the firearm out of concern for Sarah's security. The recording was then played by my lawyer. Everything was audible, including Derek's threats to find out where my children attended school and, most significantly, Sarah's total quiet while her lover brandished a gun to threaten her husband. Their features turned pale. The trial date was scheduled for next month by the clearly irate judge. Additionally, she issued a restraining order that mandates they both keep at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my place of employment. I was mistaken to believe that would be the most significant change. My door was knocked on yesterday morning. A woman in her mid-30s was standing there, holding a big folder when I opened it. She identified herself as Derek's wife, Amy, 36F. Yes, you read correctly. Derek is married and has 3 children, ages 9, 6, and 12. After reading about Derek's arrest in the local newspaper, Amy learned about Sarah and the pregnancy. She has been conducting her own research ever since, and the results are startling. She presented evidence that Derek had previously done this. He got acquainted with a woman at his former job 2 years ago, got her pregnant, and then vanished when she was 7 months pregnant. The mother was forced to return to her parents' house and raise the child by herself. Here's where it gets worse, though. Amy showed me text messages from months ago that were exchanged between Derek and Sarah. They were scheming not only having an affair but to obtain the majority of my assets in the divorce. They had a full plan in place. The texts indicated that they believed Sarah would receive a larger payout if they could incite me to act violently or foolishly. The threat of a gun wasn't spontaneous. Rather, it was planned. Derek wrote the following in a message. I'll contribute when we inform him. I'll give him a small scare if he becomes hostile. In this manner, you will receive everything, and he would know not to fight the divorce. Sarah answered, Great plan, sweetie. He will most likely cry because he is such a coward. I sent the DA's office and my attorney all of this proof. In addition to the current threats charge, the DA is now thinking of charging conspiracy. Sarah began phoning me non-stop after learning of the new proof, crying and saying she was unaware Derek was married. She said that he tricked her into agreeing to the entire scheme. The text messages, however, indicate otherwise. She was fully aware of his wife and children. As the other woman, she even made jokes about Amy being too stupid to notice her husband's affair. As Jenny searched Sarah's drawer for some old family photos, the situation became even more intriguing. I was unaware that she had discovered a second phone. It had communications from over a year ago. Before revealing their pregnancy, Sarah and Derek had been preparing for this for months. Because they believed that I wouldn't fight back as hard if there was a baby involved, they purposely waited until she was showing before telling me. The effect on our children has been catastrophic. Except for school, Mike still hardly ever leaves his room. His football coach called to report that he has been watching from the stands throughout practices, and he is now failing 3 classes. Jenny is constantly upset. She texted Sarah to let her know she was dead to her and that she would never want to see her again. You'll understand when you're older and fall in love, was the straightforward message Sarah wrote back. I provided copies of the text messages to Sarah's parents, who then came to my house. They were appalled. In my living room, her father, who had been arguing for her behavior and pleading with me to dismiss the charges, started crying. He insisted that he didn't bring up his daughter to be like that. They no longer answer her calls either. According to my attorney, Sarah won't receive anything in the divorce because of this new information. She will lose the property division because of the deliberate nature of their scheme and the conspiracy to scare me. But in all honesty, I simply want her out of our lives and don't care about the money anymore. I'm not married to the woman in those text messages. She is a stranger who sat in our bed and ate meals with our family for months, planning how to ruin me. Yesterday, Jenny inquired if I ever had any suspicions. In actuality, I didn't. I had total faith in Sarah. I never imagined that she would do this. Even while she was working late, going to the gym twice a day, and no longer wanting to be intimate after 22 years of marriage, I never once asked her late at night or checked her phone. I now see that she called me a stupid for having faith in her and laughed at my trust in her partner. Update 2. My last update was 1 month ago. Things have taken a number of unexpected turns since the divorce proceedings began last week. Since what has transpired is so amazing, I must share it. Sarah tried to play the victim at the start of the divorce court. She said that Derek had forced and persuaded her into taking part in their plan. In a tearful account, her attorney described how Derek used her loneliness as a weak woman stuck in an emotionally distant marriage. She also called a coworker to testify about how she used to cry about our allegedly tumultuous marriage in the break room. However, following the events of the criminal trial, her act utterly collapsed. Derek chose to accept a plea bargain. Since he was facing severe jail time for the gun threat, if he testified about their conspiracy, the DA offered him a restraining order and 2 years of probation. He accepted the offer, and everything changed when he came clean in court. Derek threw Sarah under the bus during his plea hearing. He acknowledged that she had come up with the entire plan from the beginning. She knew he was a successful real estate agent from his social media and had seen him at the gym. Instead of going the other way, she went to him. He testified that she had checked his Facebook profile and seen photos of his family, so she knew he was married from the start. Derek claims that Sarah told him she wanted to leave me because she was unhappy in her marriage, but she wanted to make sure she received the highest settlement possible. She specifically picked him since he had a concealed carry permit and an imposing appearance. She came up with the threat of a pistol. She believed that when I invariably reacted aggressively to threats, it would demonstrate my abuse. When the paternity test results were revealed in court, however, it was the biggest shock. Derek is not the father, but Sarah is unquestionably pregnant. Her personal trainer, a 25-year-old man called Chad, is the owner of the child. It seems that she was having an affair with Chad at the gym while she was hatching plans with Derek. Derek lost it all when this information was revealed in court. He began to yell that she had damaged his marriage for no reason at all. He believed that she would divorce me, seize half of my possessions, and then wed him. He was furious to learn that she had been sleeping with someone else the whole time. He had to be taken out of the courtroom by the bailiffs. Chad was subpoenaed and appeared to testify. He was unaware of Sarah's marriage. She informed him that she was divorced and that her father was the parent of her 2 grown children. She even introduced Jenny and Mike as her niece and nephew while they were at the gym. In the court correspondence, Chad displayed Sarah's invitation to move in with him following the completion of her divorce from her abusive ex-husband. What little credibility Sarah still had was shattered by this revelation. Her own attorney seemed repulsed. After the court declared a recess, Sarah completely lost it when we got back. The judge was unimpressed as she began to scream about how everyone was against her and that she was just trying to find happiness. Sarah's career has collapsed in the interim. When her firm reported the court cases via a background check for a promotion, it discovered the conspiracy and the criminal charges. Because of their zero-tolerance policy for unethical activity, they fired her right away. The tale has gone viral in our professional network, and she hasn't been able to find another marketing job. Since she is unable to pay for an apartment, she has now moved in with her sister. Sarah continued attempting to get in touch with the children, sending lengthy emails expressing her regret and pleading for their support throughout her pregnancy. Mike still won't even acknowledge her existence. Jenny replied once, telling her, "I hope the baby grows up to betray you just like you betrayed us." The fact that Mike has now resumed speaking is a good development. Although he continues to receive poor grades, he is improving and attending twice-weekly therapy sessions. We're working on appropriate ways for him to vent his frustrations, and the therapist thinks that his anger management problems are normal given the situation. Now that the judge has seen all the evidence, the text messages plotting the conspiracy, the paternity test results demonstrating she lied about Derek being the father, and the testimony on her numerous affairs, the divorce proceedings are advancing swiftly. According to my lawyer, we should be done in about a month. I received a call from Sarah's sister yesterday, alerting me to the fact that Sarah is not handling this well. Despite being pregnant, she has been drinking a lot and complaining about how everyone has failed her when she most needs them. Until I recalled those texts in which she made fun of using Derek's gun to intimidate me, I was on the verge of feeling terrible for her. Update 3. I can finally declare that my nightmare is gone, as it started 6 months ago. Last month, the divorce was finalized. The judge gave me Mike's primary custody and the house. Since Jenny is an adult, custody was not a concern. Sarah only received her car and personal items. The judge explained the uneven division by pointing to her many deceptions and conspiracy with Derek. Sarah's entire existence has collapsed. Complications caused her to lose the baby at 5 months. Despite everyone's warnings, her sister admitted to me that she had been drinking excessively during her pregnancy. The real father and personal trainer, Chad, is opposed to her. He left his work at the gym and relocated to a different city after discovering her falsehoods and the plot with Derek. After their divorce, Derek's wife, Amy, was granted full custody of their children. Due to the criminal allegations, he lost his real estate license and relocated to Arizona. As far as I know, he works as a bartender and tells everyone he meets how Sarah destroyed his life. Last week, Sarah's downward spiral reached its lowest point. She arrived at our house at 2 in the morning, utterly inebriated, and yelled in the driveway that she had lost everything due to one mistake. She insisted that she would stop at nothing to make things right and return home. Before I could, the neighbors phoned the police. She was jailed for 2 days for violating the restraining order. Sarah needed to face repercussions for the first time in her life, according to her sister, who declined to save her. The children are, at last, improving. Jenny has returned to college and is seeing the campus counselor on a regular basis. She claims that joining a support group for kids of divorced parents is assisting her in processing everything. Mike is back on the football team, and his grades have improved to B's and C's. His therapist claims that since he has acquired some coping skills, His anger management problems have much improved. Through all of this, Sarah's parents have shown surprisingly strong support. They have severed all communication with Sarah, but they have kept up a relationship with the children. Like she used to do when Sarah and I were first married, her mom comes over every Sunday to prepare dinner for us. On some weekends, her dad takes Mike fishing and helps him repair the hole he punched in his bedroom wall. I've begun dating a person I met via a common friend 3 years ago. Lisa, a 43-year-old high school teacher, went through her own divorce. We are moving extremely slowly. Since she tutored Mike in English and improved his grade, the youngsters who met her last month appear to like her. She is considerate of our circumstances and doesn't demand more than I am willing to provide. Yesterday, Sarah gave me a call from a new number. She claimed to be going to AA meetings and to have been sober for 2 weeks. She asked if I might think about giving her another chance. I blocked the number and hung up without answering. There are some betrayals from which you simply cannot recover. We're getting over it, but the kids are still dealing with it. Last week, Jenny expressed her pride in my handling of the situation, saying that I stood by them and refused to allow Sarah to reestablish her influence over us. When he turned 18, Mike requested if he could adopt my last name. He declared that he no longer desired any relationship with Sarah. Even though life isn't flawless, we're making progress. Sarah must now live with the decision she made. I don't regret the way I handled the situation. Showing your children that it's acceptable to take toxic people out of your life, even if that person is their mother, can be the most difficult aspect of being a parent. I'm genuinely looking forward to the future for the first time in months as we create a new normal. Now on to the next story. Story 2. I suspect that my pregnant wife may have had an affair with her coworker. Am I the a-hole for asking for a paternity test now? May 9th, 2024. My wife, 38F, and I, 39M, have been together for 12 years. I don't know how to describe it other than calling it the perfect relationship. I think in 12 years we've only ever gotten to the point of really raising our voices at one another maybe 2 or 3 times. We do everything together but have always never had issues allowing each other to lead our own lives and follow our own interests. We bought a house where we wanted, we both have good, high-paying jobs that have great work-life balance. Basically, it's been everything short of perfect. We've been trying for 2 years to get pregnant, and it hasn't been happening. We were just about to start the fertility stuff when I came home from a work trip and, guess what? She's pregnant. I had this weird, instant thought of, wait, I thought we didn't try during the week last month because of the fertility testing. But I couldn't remember exactly because, to be honest, we were busy at it, so I just assumed I missed remembering. Now, I travel around the country pretty regularly for work. Other than COVID, I've been on the road as much as 40 weeks a year sometimes. Since COVID, it's been less, but still more than a week a month. Over the last 4 or 5 years, my wife has gotten very friendly with a guy she works with. Let's call him Matt. Matt is slightly younger, I think 34M or so. I know him, he's married, I know his wife. They've worked together for, I think, 7 years or so. He's always been around. He and I have been friendly. Have I ever thought something was happening? No. But I've always thought you'd be a fool to not think there's even a 1% chance your spouse would go outside the relationship. Maybe I'm naive, but I've always seen it as a safeguard to not take my wife, or any other partner in the past, for granted. She's never given me a reason to think she'd do that, but anything is possible. So, about a month ago, I'm out of state for work and she's at home. I ask her what she's doing earlier in the day, and she says Matt is coming by for dinner. Not out of the ordinary. Matt comes by from time to time, sometimes with his wife, sometimes without, sometimes when I'm not there. I don't think much of it. We have a security system which includes cameras both inside and outside of the house, which we installed after an unrelated incident a few years ago. They record and are live, accessible by both her and I. I often use those cameras to check on the dog when I or both of us are away, as the rest of the system is monitored by a company in case of an alarm going off. She knows I check those cameras. There's a system installed where I can talk through them. I'll mess with my wife, and she will with me if either of us are out of town. She travels for work as well, but far less than I do. Point is, it's known that I check them often when I'm not at home. So I turn on the camera and I see my 4 months pregnant wife lying on the floor on her side with Matt sitting, straddling her legs and using a foam roller to massage her hips. So I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? I start rewinding through the footage and they are eating and talking normally, but then they get on the couch and get under the same blanket. Now, they are feet to feet, but that couch isn't that big. Then they move to the floor and that's when I logged in. Anyway, I text her. I'm still watching the cameras. They both look like deer in headlights and he very quickly leaves. We get into an argument. She isn't mad at me accusing her, but she's adamant that nothing has or ever would happen and that what I saw was innocent, and she was complaining about being in pain from the pregnancy, which I know is true. She's already having some issues with back pain, etc. The biggest point of that discussion was I asked, if I were there, would you two have been comfortable doing any of that in front of me? And she reluctantly admitted, no, probably not. I told her I didn't want to talk after that and we'd talk when I got home 3 days later. That's when it hit me. What if my weird gut moment feeling about her telling me she was finally pregnant was this? What if my 1% happened and this is not my child we are having? Now it eats away at me while I'm at a hotel alone 1,000 miles away for 3 days. I reconcile with myself that I think it's less likely than more likely that something between them has happened. But basically my 1% just jumped to 10%, 20% maybe. I get home and she's on eggshells and doesn't mention it. I kind of wait to see what she's going to do. 2 days later, she finally brings it up and breaks down. Swears nothing has happened. She would never, doesn't do anything over the top to try and prove anything, which I took as a good sign. But anyway, we talk out the issue and everything to a point of at least moving forward for now. I'm still coping and dealing with it, figuring out how to retrust after all this time. I'm getting more and more understanding of the fact that they are friends. They've been friends for so long. Maybe he has intentions, but I don't see her having any, and I've never really picked up on it, and I've spent time around both of them together many, many times and never caught anything. So the thing that is destroying me right now is if I'm wrong and something did happen, while I can figure out how to deal with that, what if that child isn't mine? In the argument and a few long conversations we've had about the situation since, I've never brought that up and she's not mentioned it, mostly because I don't want to make the situation worse and crush her if, in fact, she's telling the truth, which I mostly believe. The only thing I can think to do at this point is to wait until the baby is born and immediately order a paternity test in secret. Should I do that? Should I tell her and have it dealt with now? If you're a woman in her shoes and you're telling the truth, would that destroy you or your view of me? If you're lying, what would you do if I asked? I don't want to ask a super vague question, but what should I do? TLDR. Very small chance my wife of 12 years had an affair, and she's 4 months pregnant. And I can't bring myself to ask for a paternity test for fear of crushing her if nothing actually happened, but I am planning on doing it in secret when the baby comes. What should I do? Update 1. So many comments. Thank you, everyone. More than I can address directly, but I'm going to keep reading. A few things. 1. Stop demanding me about this. Thanks. 2. Some have made some good points about addressing it now rather than later, and that's something that I'm considering more than I was before. Thank you. 3. To those focused only on my relationship, I get it, but that's not what I'm focused on. We've been talking about it a lot. My wife and I are pretty open people with each other. I'm not saying I'm convinced nothing happened, but I'm more focused on paternity right now. 4. If I need to track/spy on /life360 my wife, then this relationship is over already. That's not the relationship we have and not one that I ever want, and in my opinion, not one anyone should ever have. We are working on rebuilding trust, as I said in this long-winded post. My default of 1% possibility went up to 10% or so. Trust me, I'm taking my relationship seriously, but to those I've said this to already, if the kid isn't mine, then there's no longer any conversation to have. 5. I've already had this discussion with my lawyer. I don't live in a state where the birth certificate stuff will be an issue. If I have paperwork that this child isn't mine, then divorce isn't going to be much of an issue. Both of us are in an independent financial situation where it won't matter much regardless. I'll keep up with this post as long as I can and post an update when and if anything gets resolved. Update 2. May 10th, 2024. So she was out of state on a business trip until late last night. It's Friday, so she worked from home in our kitchen. So I asked to talk and brought it up and asked for a test. She immediately said yes and said there's zero doubt and nothing that she'd even have a second to worry about, but she has no problem doing it. Now, the only caveat I left it with is if it's invasive at all per our doctors, then I'm okay waiting until it's low risk. I'm not a doctor, no clue what they'd have to do it now, so not sure when we are, but she's aware and we are getting one. It was a decent and longer conversation. We are currently sitting together getting lunch. She's got no clue I did this on Reddit, hence the new account because she is on here somewhere. Thank you, everyone, for your help and opinions. A bunch of you made me realize that we are already really open about everything, and if nothing happened, then she wouldn't worry about getting one. I was more worried about her health and adding some insane level of stress if it was an issue, as she's an at-risk pregnancy and it took so long for us to get pregnant. So again, thank you all for the help. I suppose I can update if it's mine or not, but I'm not sure how long that will be. I'm 90 to 95% sure it is mine, but this will help us continue this conversation. Thank you. Update 3. Just because it seems to be more of a topic on this post versus the other one for some reason. Yes, I have the footage. No, I haven't talked to Matt yet. He's told her he wants to talk about it, but I've told them to wait on that. My relationship with my wife and paternity is what's important right now. I will eventually talk with Matt. No, I'm not going to get Matt's wife involved intentionally. I don't know why I would want to just be vindictive. I'm not going to cover for him, obviously, but his relationship is his and mine is mine. I'm not interested in making this worse. Whatever is going on between him and his wife isn't any of my business. Relevant comments. OP when asked why his wife thought she could be intimate with someone else. We've talked about it at length. Nothing is being ignored. I could write you an essay about our past, her reasons and my feelings on it, but instead, I'll just say I'm aware of it. She's claiming innocence of anything further, but at the same time admitting that it wasn't a good look. But she wasn't thinking about it at the time, and that's what we are currently working through. When told it doesn't look innocent and asked if his wife goes to Matt's house when his wife isn't home. She's 4 months old, I was home, and we had been on the clock to the point of the day blending together. Trust me, we are pretty open people and pretty comfortable with ourselves and each other. I don't know if she's been to his house without his wife. I mean, the 3 and 4 of us all hang out probably once or twice a month, but they work directly together every day and have for years, so obviously there's a closeness there. They are both upper management in their company, and at my company, I have long-term friends that are women. I've traveled with them, we've done dinner and hung out in hotel rooms together. But I've never done anything because that's not me. I'm married and love my wife and my life. I have no reason to. So, I mean, the optics are bad. I just have to decide if it's only the optics or if she has a reason to. Maybe he has a reason too, and that's what I saw that I'm not sure about. But that comes down to, do I trust her to handle that? She says if that's the case, she's never noticed it, and she hangs out with him and his wife just about as much as he hangs out with us. She works in a building right near them. My company is based out of Chicago and I live on one of the coasts, so my coworker friends are much more spread out. We can't go to the bar to grab after-work drinks any day like they can. Honestly, I usually go to their work hangouts more than mine because of that. I'm friendly with her CEO because of it. So is it perfect? No, but I've always trusted her. I've never had a reason not to in 15 years. This is the first crack or dent in it. OP gives a clearer description of what happened that day. That's not what I saw. She said something, he froze, said something I couldn't hear, and she said, No, don't worry about it. He put something in the dishwasher and she walked him out to the front door. He didn't dive out the window. You have to remember, this is Reddit. I'm not putting every single nuanced detail in this because that would take me hours to write, and I'm not putting my security footage on the internet for strangers to see. The reason I have the security system in the first place is because of a stranger on the internet. I'm not saying anything beyond that didn't happen for sure between them. I'm saying I don't know now and I don't have any proof. That's what my wife and I are discussing just about every day and what we are working through. The original point of the post was the only thing we hadn't talked about was paternity because I don't want to put her in a situation where she medically loses the child, mine or not. Not only have I not been able to put every single nuanced thing in this, I've also sprinkled in false details about our lives. Nothing pertinent to what happened, but other mundane details. I was a very small public figure at one point, and some lowlife from the internet traveled across the country to make death threats against us because of something warped in his head, to the point where the federal government had to get involved. People here are wildly jumping at conclusions with much less information than I have and ignoring the original point of the post and the original questions asked. Has he told Matt's wife? She is my wife's friend's wife. We don't meet up and knit together. I know her through my wife. I see her maybe once every few months at a bar after work, or if they come for dinner or to hang out. We aren't besties. Again, what should I tell her? Hey, your husband was at my house. I knew he was there, and I saw him run a foam roller over the outside of my wife's hip while he was sitting on her feet. It's super obvious they are sleeping together. And even though I'm not sure, it's possible she's carrying his baby. This isn't a soap opera. There's nothing I know that I can tell her. So why would she take my word on what tiny evidence there is? And why or how in the world would that help my situation if all of this is false? Now I've destroyed my relationship by acting like a child, trying to drum up drama for what obviously looks like being vindictive, and I put them in the same situation we are in now for something that I don't know is true yet. I believe you have entirely lost the plot here. Update 4. August 21st, 2024. Hi folks. So I haven't been touching this account at all, as I was mostly bombarded by people telling me I'm an AI, wishing my wife a miscarriage, claiming she's going to get a secret abortion to save herself, or that I'm a clown for not keeping it real and destroying someone else's marriage over speculation only. I'm amazed that people are still following this and invested in it after all this time. Here's where we are at. Yes, my wife is still very much pregnant. She's at the hard to pick things up off the floor stage. She's due in 8 weeks. Holy shit, 6 weeks actually. Just looked at the calendar. We are getting weekly ultrasounds at this point. He's already about 5 pounds and has a big old head. She and I had some very long, direct conversations about everything. She is adamant that nothing has ever happened and nothing ever would. For a while, she was pretty upset with herself for causing this and causing my feelings of doubt. I've done my best to remedy that, as I've got to keep stress off her as much as possible right now. But it will for sure be revisited after the birth, as I've been saying the entire time. I'm really only worried about the child and the birth going well, etc. Well, mostly, maybe not only. The only thing we still really disagree on is I thought he was getting too close because he had developed feelings or was getting attention that he wasn't getting elsewhere, maybe, etc. She doesn't see it that way but has also said it's possible, but if so, she was blind to it. I told her I wanted a paternity test and she immediately agreed to it and said no problem at all. My only stipulation was that it couldn't be medically risky or stress-inducing at all, as she's a high-risk pregnancy. We both spoke to her doctors about it, and they basically told us that our only option was to go to the courthouse because they wouldn't do one without the law involved, which we both thought was ridiculous. Her doctor was a bit thrown off by it, so I didn't press very hard. It was honestly her pretty much demanding it. I knew there were other options. I looked into those other options and ultimately decided to wait until the birth, and I have a lab already set up to do it, ready to go. I'm 95% sure it's unnecessary, but I'm still getting one for my peace of mind and mostly so that nothing will come between me and my child. For those of you that have left me messages of support that I didn't get back to, thank you. I'm going to spend some time going through them tonight before I run off again. For those of you who've left messages that think I should be acting like a 17-year-old high school student and either getting violent, purposely cheating on my wife to prove a point, or other childish trash, thanks for the entertainment at least. Stop watching TLC and TikTok. That dumbass drama ain't the way, kiddos. And to the one person who suggested I cause an accident with my wife, I hope you end up behind bars someday. It's really likely I'm not going to come back here after tonight until after I get the results from the lab. So if you're really still interested in the results, come back in 1.5 to 2 months. I've been told the results take about 48 hours once submitted. I'll give you your Maury moment then. OP answers questions in a comment. Here, just as a preempt, I'm going to post something I responded to someone else on the last post just a minute ago. But I likely won't check this account until after the birth after this comment. 1. People seem to be reading into the reasons I thought all this was more than what I said. I've seen, dude, they were in bed together? You caught them sleeping together? Or, they were cuddling under a blanket. Totally get how the telephone game works. But I never said any of that. So I'll clarify, I guess. Here's exactly what I saw. They were on the sectional couch in my living room at either end under the same large blanket, feet to feet. The massage. She was lying on the floor on her side. He was sitting by her feet and rolling one of those big foam rollers on her back and side, which is something I do all the time because she's been complaining about back and outer hip pain. Still enough for me to raise a concern with her. But people seem to be reading into that as they were basically dry humping and thought you couldn't see. 2. I'm being told that I'm being oblivious and ignoring the obvious and letting her and him off the hook. This is a direct comment I left someone giving my thoughts on that. I think they said something like, "This is what guys who choose to have their head in the sand say." My response, "Yeah, I'm pretty well aware of that. I've also stated many times that my wife is a high-risk pregnancy, so I've decided to try and not explode things until I know something for a fact and risk what would potentially be the only opportunity one have to have a child at my age. If it turns out I'm wrong and that happens because I blew all this up over nothing, I don't know how I could live with myself, and my marriage likely wouldn't survive that anyway. So I don't see that as a winning option. If I deal with it calmly and like an adult, and if I'm wrong, then great, we can move on. And if I'm right, then it can still be dealt with accordingly with facts and not speculation. If the child is mine and the birth goes well, then we have a healthy child and I can deal with the remainder of any damage she has or hasn't done, without risking potentially the only child I'm going to have. Trust me, I'm not ignoring it. I'm choosing to support my wife to get through the pregnancy first, then I'll deal with the rest of it. It's probably been the hardest thing I've ever done emotionally, but here we are. End of copied comment. I know I'm a sarcastic SOB in some of these comments, but honestly, thank you for everyone's concern, and I have gotten some good advice from people. Mostly this has been a bit cathartic to write all this down as most of my friends are toxic dudes who are more interested in fighting about golf or some other pointless shit. I love him, but I don't really have anyone other than her to talk to about any of this. So honestly, thank you. Update 5. OP added an update on the previous post. Quick update. Today is September 14th. We just got an induction date scheduled on the 26th. Update September 29th, 1 a.m. Baby boy is here. Born September 27th, 7 pounds 10 ounces. He had what the doctors in the OR said was the biggest meconium they've seen in a while on the table, so it was likely he was about 8 pounds when he was born. Labor was induced early morning on the 26th. Labor was like 30 hours, pushed for like 3 hours, no progress, ended up in a C-section. He's perfectly healthy and kind of a tank. I was almost a 10 pounds baby. Mom is dealing with recovery and not having a fun time, but we are getting there. We are being discharged on Tuesday, they tell us. We live about 2 miles from the hospital, so I've been going back to the house to shower and sneak in like an hour or two a couple of times. Otherwise, I've been here the entire time. As far as paternity, just out of all that entails with the birth of a newborn and recovery and honestly a bit of embarrassment, we haven't started the test, but it's set up and ready to start on Tuesday when we get out of here. So I'll give a final update after the results come back, so maybe another week to 10 days. My honest opinion after looking at this kid is he is mine. Matt and I are physically very opposite, different heritages. I'm 6 feet 3 inches, 240 pounds. He's probably 5 feet 8 inches, 175 to 180 pounds. I've always held the belief that babies all generically look the same other than obvious ancestral differences. But yes, this moose of a baby has some obvious traits that would only come from me. Still doing the test, but I'm very much not worried about it. I'll make a new post when I get the results back. Final update. Results are in October 10th, 2024. TLDR, child is mine. The baby is as healthy as could be so far. Mom, on the other hand, has been having issues. Baby was born on September 27th. Labor was 30 hours, ending in a C-section. 7 pounds, 10 ounces. Mom didn't do so well. We were supposed to be in for 4 days and ended up being 8 days. Mom has been back to the hospital twice since. I'm currently sitting in the car with the little guy because Mom's in the emergency room right now. She is making progress but still having a hard time with a few things. As I mentioned before, she has some pre-existing issues that we knew would make this hard. But there have been a few hurdles, but we are getting over them together. As far as paternity, the results came back this morning. Greater than 99.9999% match that I am the father. I did pretty much already know this, but now there is no question and I can put it behind me. My wife and I have had long conversations about all this leading up to the birth, especially around the time of the original post when all this started. We are in a good place, and while it's always going to be there, we both have things to work on communication-wise that came from all this. I did also see Matt today. That's been settled. I'm pretty satisfied that what I saw was it and there wasn't anything else beyond that, and it was a friend helping her with pain the same way I do. I do want to thank everyone who left a message or DM'd me, good or bad comments. Thank you. Talking to the void and all you strangers helped me wait this out. I appreciate it. I'm gonna go enjoy my son's company now. Thank you again. Relevant comments. Comment. Congratulations. This may have gotten buried in the comments, but did your wife have a real understanding of the optics of what you saw? She realized how truly suspicious it looked. OP. Yay. She realizes it after she saw the video herself. Comment 2. Also, why are you still not informing Matt's wife of what you walked in on? Feels dishonest. She deserves to know and make her own decision. OP. I didn't walk in on anything. His wife apparently was aware the entire time because Matt told her what was going on. Now on to the next story. Story 3. My stepfather murdered my mother before taking his own life. I'm overwhelmed, lost, and unsure of how to move forward. I know this doesn't sound real. I have my boyfriend and my best friend here. I've known this for about 2.5 hours. Still doesn't seem real. I don't really know what I want to accomplish with this post, but I swear it is real. It's 3:51 a.m. in Berlin right now. We were trying to finish watching the movie that we started before the police rang at my door. I don't know what to do. Edit. The police just called me. My stepfather killed himself. I wish I could destroy him right now. I just feel empty. Edit 2. I don't even know why I'm posting here. I'm usually just a lurker. I guess I just want somebody to know. I feel like the whole world should know my mother is the most amazing person and she has always been my idol. I don't know how to feel. I'm in our apartment and I feel like everything I see is her. My evening started so differently. Everything started so differently. I haven't slept yet. I don't know how I will, though. Sleeping is usually my talent. Mom wakes me up every afternoon if she feels like I'm sleeping too long, since I moved back in during the COVID lockdown. Update 1. Hello, my last post got capped, so I made a throwaway account. It's been about 24 hours since the police stood in front of the door to my mom's and my apartment and told me that my mother is dead. I cried so much today. I feel like it's been an ocean of tears. So much that I just feel empty now. I miss her so much. Still just feels like a bad dream. This can't really be real. Her death was on the news, and I saw a picture of a body in a blue body bag being rolled into the back of a wagon. That is my mother in that bag. Oh my God. I'm gonna run down what happened again. Maybe this will make it more real for myself, I don't know. My boyfriend and I were in the park playing speed mitten on Wednesday evening when my mom called me and told me she would be coming home. I asked her if everything was okay and she said yes, not to worry about it, and my boyfriend was still welcome to come over if he liked. I told her okay, I would see her in a moment. We both went home and she wasn't there. I wasn't worried. My stepfather and my mom have been together for a while, and they're very much in love, but they can fight a lot sometimes. They always make up very quickly. I tried calling her several times to know if she wanted dinner and sent her text messages, and texted and called my stepfather as well. They didn't answer. This wasn't so unusual either. I thought they just made up. I'm guessing by this time he had already stabbed her. I feel sick writing this sentence. The police showed up at 3 in the morning, informed me, and stayed in the apartment while my boyfriend called my best friend, who rushed over with a taxi. Everything is kind of a blur from then on. I remember sitting down to write the Reddit post because I didn't know how to feel or what to do, and I guess I wanted to scream my pain into the internet void. At that point, my stepfather hadn't killed himself yet. He had taken his car up into the countryside where my mother has a tiny little house at the lake, which is her pride and joy with her garden. Both of them went up there every weekend together. He killed himself there, the bastard. I've never been so angry in my life. I loved him. He was a part of my family. We got along really well. Some part of me wishes I could strangle him or scratch his eyes out. I just want to scream in his face how he could do this to me. To her, my lovely mother. She is such a light. She is such an incredible person, and we are so close. I told her everything. And not just because she is my mother. She is truly an absolutely amazing person. Everybody who met her loved her. I stayed awake until about 6 a.m. I smashed a few glasses. I cried a lot. We finished watching the movie today. I had to call all of the people. My grandparents, her brother, her friends. I had to call my stepfather's children in the UK and tell them what happened. I can't imagine how hard it must be for them. My mother was the victim. Their father was the murderer. I feel so bad for them. I've gotten so many calls and messages from people who are offering to help me in any way I need, who cry on the phone and ask me if this is real. To have to tell people over and over again what happened really wrecked me, especially my grandparents. My granddad, I don't know how he's going to get through this. He just kept screaming, "No, no, not my mom's name. I have to go to the police today to give a statement, probably talk about their relationship. I have to be there in 4.5 hours and I haven't really slept yet. I can't really eat either. I just feel like throwing up just thinking about food." I wanted to thank all of you for your comments on my first post. I know we don't know each other, that I'm just some faraway voice on a screen with a terrible fate, but I did feel better reading your hugs and encouragement. I will have to think about getting a lawyer. My dad is sleeping in the other room. We're gonna have to figure out how to get here. Some part of me honestly doesn't see a point anymore. There's so much pain in my life. I've had so many bad experiences. I got through a rape and a drug and everything was on its way up, and now this. But I love my mom more than anything and I can't disappoint her. And I'm going to need to be here for my dad and me. I'm sorry for the long text. I just feel like I need to get something out. I feel so lost and empty. I miss my mom. Update 2. Hello. I guess in some way I wanted to give you people an update on what has been going on with me. When I posted my first post, I was slightly drunk. It was the night the police showed up at my house and rang the doorbell, and I was confused. All of your messages from random strangers, helped me in some way. I'd like to thank whoever sent me that poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry. "Do not stand at my grave and weep." We used that for the invitation to her party. And also Bianca, who painted that beautiful painting of her which she sent me by email. Thank you. The poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry. "Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there, I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glint on snow. I am the sun on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there, I did not die." Also, fair warning, this might be quite a long post. This might trigger someone. And I've been writing this post over several days as more information keeps trickling in and the picture of that night is becoming clearer and clearer. I think I'm also mainly writing this for myself. What happened that night, the 23rd of July, is just still so surreal. I'm sitting at my mother's desk right now, in her little office in our apartment that I grew up in Berlin. Her presence in some way is all around me. It has been 23 days since the police showed up in front of my door at 3 in the morning and asked if they could come in. Since my stepfather hung himself, everything has been so confusing. It's all sort of a mixture between crying, screaming, yelling, throwing things, and just emptiness. I go through phases. Someone linked that famous post about grief and God. It's so accurate and it's really hard to cope. Since that night, I haven't ever actually been alone. This is somewhat exhausting to me in some ways, but probably also very important. I'm going to go through the series of events and facts because I also want to set it right, since in the media, since some of you found the articles online and connected the dots, there is so much false information it's hard to believe. My mother and my stepfather were together for 8 years, and he has only been living in Berlin since then. He has children from his previous marriage, that is all I will say. I am my mother's only daughter. He did not call me and confess to what he did, as many report, but he called some vaguely mutual friend who he walks his dog with sometimes. This was sometime after 11 p.m. At this point, he was already up at the summer house. It takes about 1 hour and 45 minutes to get up there. This means my mother had been dead for about 2 hours. It says so in the police report as well. The summer house did not belong to my stepdad but to my mom. She poured all of the little money she had and renovated it by hand. It does not in any way belong to him. The police showed up at my mom's and my apartment late at night. They didn't know the address of where he might have gone and were also worried he might come and harm me since he had the keys to our apartment as well. I was watching a movie with a friend of mine. I posted on Reddit a few hours later. The news article started coming out the next day, connecting my stepfather to a celebrity. I posted because I needed help. This and my stepfather are by no means friends, they are acquaintances, and there is no reason for him to be brought into any of this. That was Wednesday night, Thursday morning. On Friday, I was at the Landeskriminalamt, criminal police, and gave a 3-hour statement about them and their relationship. This next part is about my feelings and mainly about my mom. Feel free to skip it. Since then, my whole world has been turned upside down. My mother, the person I honestly loved most in the whole world, was just torn from me. It feels like I have this big, bleeding hole inside of me. I'm not crying all the time. Sometimes I feel okay, but more like empty. My mother has been with me my whole life, the whole 21 years, and I'm not just saying this because she is dead. She is honestly the best mother you could wish for. She is goofy and caring. Her laugh is infectious. She has such integrity. She is the most animated person when she tells a story. She will get up from the table and gesture all around. Her eyes are so shining. I think I might show some pictures of her because I want people to recognize her beauty. I want the whole world to know she is gone because this is an honest and devastating loss to the world. Believe me, she is so talented. She got her bachelor's in art history in America. She has worked odd jobs all her life. She's always been a hippie. When I was little, she started working at this English language summer camp in Thuringia in Germany, and she used to take me there for many weeks with her on a hill on a farm in the middle of a giant forest. She's a magician in the kitchen. She can open the fridge door and magic make something out of leftover ingredients that nobody would ever think tastes good. Noodles and carrots. Anyone? She likes to make everything herself. She would let milk go bad and make her own ricotta. I have 1,000 jars of her homemade chutney and jams. She baked her own bread years before the pandemic. She made her own vinegar, her own syrups and alcohol, and her hot sauces are legendary. I used to come home and open the fridge door and I'd ask her which of the many bowls she had covered with little plates were edible and which weren't ready yet. Since she's dead, I have found so many started experiments of things I don't even know what they are. I wish I could ask her. There are so many things I wish I had the time to ask her. Writing this is making me cry again. At the beginning of the pandemic, March I believe, I moved back in with her, and she ordered 14 different bottles of white wine on Lidl, and every night we'd drink one together while we cooked, and I'd write notes on the color and the taste and we'd give it a 1 to 10 on the Lidl scale. She's one of the funniest people I know, and she is so forgiving. Even when I was younger, we would get into huge blow-up fights sometimes and we'd scream, but 5 minutes afterwards, she'd come into my room and she'd apologize and tell me she loved me more than anything in the world. We told each other we loved one another all the time, sometimes just randomly, and hugged each other. I'm so grateful for this. I would say we had a rare mother-daughter bond. I love her with all my heart. She has always been my idol, my role model. If I'm even half the person she is, as generous, hilarious, creative, emotional, forgiving, and understanding, I will be lucky. I see her face in front of me all the time. I can hear her laugh. I'd really give anything for her to be with me right now, anything. It really tears me apart. If it weren't for her, I would have probably been dead 1.5 years ago. She pulled me out of my dark holes. She loved me unconditionally. She isn't just my mother, she is my best friend. And I will never, ever forgive him for taking her from me. Especially since more and more facts are coming out. End of emotional bit. It's important to preface that I knew their relationship, or to be more exact, I was the closest to both of them together, and it's important to understand that he wasn't some creepy, abusive, scary bad guy. I loved him, He was like a best friend to me. When he came into my mother's and my life, I took him in with open arms. I've confided in him. I've told him secrets. We've had running jokes. We made bets with each other that I usually won and he had to pay up. He was my family. This makes me feel just as I feel cheated. I feel like I've been blind. I've had bad fights with him as well, and I knew about their fights, but I didn't see this coming, not even a little bit. I would never put my mother in harm's way. I guess this is why she must have kept things hidden from me. The murder happened in his apartment. They had separate apartments. And afterwards, he drove his car up to my mother's country house that they both spent every weekend at. Hunting mushrooms, planting and building things, going swimming in the lake that's right in front of the door. This was their refuge, and I'm assuming this is the reason he went there. Since the day this has happened, I've always assumed he blew up about something, lost control, and he killed my mother while he wasn't clear-headed. This is what made sense to me, that he killed himself because he killed my mother because he didn't know how to continue. But the more time goes by and the more facts we uncover, we being my mother's friends and I, not the police, the more it seems it was the opposite. That he killed my mother because he wanted to kill himself and that he was covering something up. Since the night the police showed up, they've been asking me if I could know where their laptops are. They both had a laptop and both are missing. They found the empty cases, but they're gone. This sparked suspicion in us. His phone is gone as well. My mother's is not. The police gave it to me. Then there are the other facts. Trigger warning. Despite what it said in the media, she didn't have multiple stab wounds in her chest. There was only one very precise and very small wound that caused her death. He only let someone know what he did after he was up at the house. When he arrived at the cabin, he apparently parked normally, even greeted one of the neighbors. The pieces are falling into place that this was cold-blooded. I don't really know why I'm writing all this down in a Word document and why I'm going to post it on Reddit, but I need to share. I feel so much hatred and so much anger. I feel it boiling underneath my skin and it keeps threatening to come out. I've smashed so much stuff. I've gotten so angry sometimes. I snap and I scream at people, and other times I just cry and beat my pillows, and sometimes I'm very calm. I can still feel joy, and my mother has this amazing circle of friends that I've known my whole life and who are supporting me. I saw her body in the coffin and I will never be able to get that image out of my head. She was so tiny. It breaks my heart. I've also slept 2 nights at the cabin, and in the dark, every shadow looked like my stepfather. I've become scared and started locking my doors at night. Murder used to seem something so far off, something that happened to other people in a different world, separate from mine. But now it's not, and I won't let him spoil her place, her house. I won't let him take that away from her and from me. I refuse. I just miss her. I miss everything about her. It hasn't been that long yet, and all I want is for her to hug me and say my name and say she loves me and that she thinks I'm an amazing young woman. I want her to cuddle with me in bed, which she did for so many years until I felt myself too old. I want to sit at the kitchen table in the morning with her and have her ask me what I dreamt about last night and have both of us talk about our dreams. For her to talk with me about my story ideas and my poetry and to talk with her about the book that she was writing and will never finish. It just hurts so much. I don't know how to ever get past this. She has always been the most amazing person I know and I can't get over this. I don't know how to get over this. I feel lost. I feel like I have to grow up very fast now and carry her with me. There's so much more to tell, so much, but I should probably stop somewhere. I would appreciate advice. Thank you for reading. Relevant comments. Commenter. It's 23:40 and now I just want to call my mom. I'll do that in the morning when I wake up. She's my only family since we cut ties with pretty much everyone else. Be brave and take your time to recover. I hope everything will be fine for you after some time and that you'll get even stronger after this terrible event. OP answer, hi, you're in the same time zone as me. Please do this and tell her you love her from me because I wish I could tell my mom. Lots of love. Commenter. Hello again. I commented on the original post because I went through something so similar. I want to thank you for the update. It couldn't have been easy to write, but more than that, I'm glad to see you on Reddit, just to know you're still around. The part of this post that most struck me was you spending time in the cabin. I remember the days in my father's house after his murders and suicide so vividly, and looking back on it, I wish I hadn't gone there at all. Which leads me to this: you don't have to do things the hard way. You don't have to make things harder on yourself. When grief as raw and shocking as what you've experienced takes over, we sometimes want to swim in it, because at least feeling something is better than remaining numb, feeling hollow. But I want to lovingly and gently encourage you to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I also want to reiterate how useful a trauma-informed therapist can be. I was dead set against therapy after my father's crimes happened. I thought I could handle everything on my own. After all, I'd always been the strong one. I waited a year to find a counselor, and if I could change a single thing I did, it would be that I'd have sought out help sooner. I didn't really know how to ask for help at the time. It took me years to learn how. But it would have been immeasurably useful to have someone help me through all of that. Like you, I was in my 20s when my father killed his girlfriend, her daughter, then himself. That was 16 years ago. There is a life on the other side of all of this trauma and heartbreak. I promise. And the book I just finished writing about was finally handed in on the last day of July. Maybe someday it can help you and others. I have thought of you many times since your first post. My offer to reach out at any time stands. Anytime. Edited to add. Quite a few people asked about the book in this thread and via DM. It's with my agent now, so at earliest, it would be out in a year. Books take forever. The title is We Run to Crush the Grass. Thank you for the interest, but please focus on OP. She needs the love and kindness of strangers. OP answer. You, especially you, have helped me so much, Lisa. Thank you so much. You've been such a light in these dark times. Advising me, listening to me, checking up on me since my first post, and listening to me complaining about my family. You're such an amazing person, and communicating with you has helped me so immensely. I send you so much love, and I will continue being in contact with you. I can't wait for your book. Commenter. You must have inherited your mother's writing talent, because your story about her was so beautifully told. I agree with the others who gently suggest you speak with a therapist trained to deal with trauma. They can help you with your anger and other feelings and thoughts as they arise, so you can be guided to a proper healing. My heart goes out to you, and if you will, I'll pray for 1,000 healing angels to surround you. OP answer. The night the police showed up at my door, at about 4 a.m., it started raining even though it wasn't supposed to. I went outside on the street and I started praying to every god there was, even though I'm not religious, but in these moments it really doesn't matter. You just want something higher to help you. Thank you so much. Edit. OP added in this thread. Hey everyone. Imagine my surprise scrolling through Reddit on my living room couch this fine afternoon when I see a little picture of my mom and me in my feed. Was not expecting that at all. And then to look further down and see all of these wonderful and heartfelt comments underneath. I couldn't believe it, and I actually started crying again. This is the reason I reached out back then into the void, as I called it, at my darkest time, and Reddit reached back and gave me something to hold on to. When you lose your faith in humanity in that way, I needed the love that came from so many strangers all over and the support. Yesterday was actually my birthday. I just turned 25, so it has been a bit over 3 years, and I can't believe that 3 years have passed. I can't stand to believe that much time has passed without her. Thinking about it makes it hurt more. I miss her so much. Thank you to everyone for worrying about me and wishing me well. I'll give a quick update, and one of these days maybe sit down and write something more out. I've been in therapy for almost 2 years now, and I have a wonderful therapist that helps me greatly. It took me a while to find her, and there was a lot of trial and error with former therapists. But she's amazing, and I'm so happy I have her. She actually says that I have improved greatly in a number of things. I'm a mess though. My mother's murder is something that I've buried very deep down below in the darkness of my psyche, and we haven't quite reached it yet. Now on to the next story. Story 4. GF cheated on me, and our whole relationship was nothing after she lied about going to a show I wanted to see. Now she's threatening a restraining order when I confronted her. I'm not going to start out with the "our relationship is perfect but" thing that you always see on here. I'll admit this has been one of the hardest relationships I've been in. I still very much love her. She's beautiful, strong, driven, successful, and independent. However, my M30 girlfriend, F28, is a dismissive avoidant to the extreme, and it's been causing a lot of issues in our relationship. She's in therapy, but that is mostly focusing on managing her OCD and related eating disorder. Fun fact, all three issues are often comorbid. She has issues expressing her emotions/needs and struggles with communication, commitment, and compromise. As a result, we've been dating a little over a year. Prior to me, her longest relationship was less than 2 months. She usually shuts down and runs from relationships if she feels smothered, if her partner lets her down, or if she feels like she's being criticized. It doesn't take much for this to happen. She does recognize this, and she's trying to work on it, but it's hard on us both. Both of us are big theater nerds. A few months ago, we had a trip to a city about 2 hours from us to visit her grandparents, and I got to meet her best friends from college for the first time. While there, we went to a show with her friends. I honestly had a great time. Her grandparents loved me, and I got along really well with her friends. There was another show coming up in a few months that both of us have connections to. It was the first musical she ever saw with her grandparents, and I worked on a production in high school. I asked my girlfriend if we could go. I even offered to bring her grandparents and treat them to a nice night out. They don't get to go out much anymore. Or we could go with her college friends. I immediately got shut down. She said that she didn't really like that show, which she has mentioned before, and she didn't want to see it again. Fine, no big deal. That show was last weekend. Not sure if this is relevant yet. Feel free to skip this paragraph. We kind of had a fight on Saturday. I was about 15 minutes late to picking her up to hang out at a brewery, and she felt really let down. She's broken up with other people for similar reasons and gave the silent treatment all day. Eventually, I get her to open up, we apologize to each other, and have a decent evening at home. The next morning, she says that she doesn't feel great and wants to go home to rest. I drive her home and asked if she needed me to stay with her to take care of her or anything. Nope. She just wants a quiet day to herself. I tell her to let me know if she needs anything and headed home. I don't hear from her all day. Even when she's relaxing, we're usually trading memes and Snapchats of our cats. But she's not even opening my messages. Earlier that week, she had a migraine so bad that I needed to take her to the emergency room, and her sister just had a baby that's been having some health problems. I started to get really worried that something was wrong by late afternoon, so I decided to check her location on Find My. She's not at home. She's not even in our city. She's just leaving a restaurant and walking to the theater to go see the show that I really wanted to see. I assume she was with her friends again. The restaurant is a favorite of theirs. It's a nicer restaurant where they would have needed a reservation, and the show is a popular show. Everything would have needed to have been planned well in advance. I'm not worried about her cheating or anything. Her friends are married to each other, and she wouldn't be going with anyone else, except maybe her grandparents. I'm just so hurt over everything. I really wouldn't have minded if she said she already had plans to go to the show with her friends. I just don't understand why she lied to me about not being willing to go and why she lied to me to hide that she was going. I think she just didn't want to explain that she wanted to go with her friends and without me. I don't know how to bring this up to her. She's very sensitive to criticism. Even though I'm hurt, not mad at her, she'll probably take it as an attack. She also just doesn't really like me expressing my feelings to her in general and tends to shut down and withdraw. I'm worried that if I bring this up, she'll just break up and leave to avoid the conversation. She's threatened to do that before on much smaller issues. How can I bring this up without scaring her off? Update 1. September 25th, 2024. I wanted to thank everyone for their input on my last post. I know it's a bit cliché, but I wasn't expecting it to take off so much. Even the harsher comments helped me get a better grasp on the situation. I wasn't going to bother posting an update, but a few people have messaged me, so I figured I'd finally write this out. Spoiler, not a good end. I spent a lot of time thinking about what to do. I made my post on Monday. We had a date planned for Wednesday. I decided I would bring it up then. On Tuesday, she was having a bad day at work, but she didn't really let me know. She texted me about an email that her boss sent her, and I thought my response was appropriately supportive and validating, basically telling the guy off and letting her know she's right to be frustrated. I get a curt, "Is that all you took from that?" back from her. I probably should have thought a bit more, But I was dealing with my own work issues and a migraine, so I lazily just doubled down on my first response, again reiterating that she has every right to be angry. She didn't respond. I didn't double text, but I did reach out via Snapchat and Instagram messages to see if she'd respond there. She didn't open any of my messages. Because I'm always trying to make excuses for her, I assume she's busy and will respond when she has time. If you couldn't tell from the first post, my girlfriend really struggles with communication. Finally, for hours later, she responds with how she doesn't feel emotionally supported, and she needs some space to think about the future of our relationship. I was super confused and asked what was wrong. I got the response, "I just had a really crappy day and you didn't even bother to call me." I kind of snapped at that a little. I asked why she didn't respond to any of my messages, or why didn't she say, "Hey, I had a really bad day at work and need to hear your voice," or something like that. I pointed out that she never asks me for emotional support. She just acts out until I figure out what she needs or until she gets frustrated and gives me the silent treatment. I didn't respond because it wouldn't have mattered. I cannot always be the one putting in the work. I explained for what felt like the 1,000th time that I can't read her mind. She needs to communicate her needs. She's intentionally avoiding work by refusing to open up and asking for help. I understand that's hard for her, but I can't make up for that on my end. I pointed out that I didn't realize she was having an awful day. I just thought she was dealing with regular work. She never tried to clarify how she was feeling or what she needed. I've been saying I need more effort from you for months and nothing has changed. This is the exact argument I didn't want to have and you pushed it. I responded that I desperately want to support her, but she isn't giving me anything to work with. I gave her the space she asked for and told her I love her. The next morning, she asks if she can come over after work to talk. After I confirm, she goes back to giving me the silent treatment. I soon found myself blocked on Snapchat and Instagram. Weirdly enough, it was this that finally made it click for me about how bad I'd been treated. I was so starved for emotional and non-sexual physical intimacy. She doesn't even like holding hands, let alone cuddling, and was an anxious mess from constantly walking on eggshells. But I'm stubborn. I loved her. I really wanted things to work and was still wanting to talk things out. She's pulled a similar stunt before and we ended up staying together. She finally comes over. We start out going over our communication issues. Her big thing is that she feels that with a compatible partner, everything should come naturally, including knowing when your partner needs something without asking. She can get overwhelmed and just shuts down, and asking for help is also very overwhelming for her, goes against her need to feel independent and self-sufficient, and feeds her fear of getting into a toxic, codependent relationship like her parents. So she feels that this is an appropriate expectation to have. I explain that she's asking me to read her mind, that she's putting all of the emotional labor on me, and that isn't a realistic or fair expectation to have. She started to change the subject, which is a go-to of hers when she's uncomfortable with a conversation. We jumped around to various issues in our relationship. She randomly says that she doesn't feel like she really knows me. I ask her what she means by that. She says that she never knows what I'm thinking or feeling and I'm too closed off. All false, and this definitely feels like projection on her part. It also hit on a deep insecurity that she didn't actually care enough about me to try to get to know me. She barely engaged in my interests and hobbies, rarely asked me questions about myself. If she did, they were usually negative questions. On the other hand, I made all the effort to know about the things she cared for. She then brought up that we've been dating for a year but have no plans to move in together. Again, this hit on a major insecurity of mine. I had been trying to bring this up for months. I straight up asked her when she was having issues at her place and she was thinking about moving. This was late July, around our 1-year anniversary. On the other hand, she gave me different answers every time I asked her what she wanted for her or our future, if she didn't try to change the subject instead. She's never brought up our future on her own. I always was the one to bring it up. I made it clear that the only reason we don't have future plans is because she doesn't seem to want to make them yet. I also said there is nothing wrong with that, but she needs to let me know if she's not ready for that step. Pointing all of this out to her made her go quiet. Not silent treatment quiet, but when things get too intense for her, she just starts to shut down and withdraw. Took a few minutes for her to come out of it. As she did, I explained that I felt that I was the only one really putting effort into our relationship. She asked me what I seriously wanted. I began in a kind of roundabout way, I guess. I explained that 6 years ago, I had to end an engagement to my fiancée after she became an abusive alcoholic, then spent the next few years working 80+ hours a week at a job I hated while watching my dad slowly die. All things she already knows. What I was going to say next is that after going through that, I wanted to get a job that was better for my mental health, succeeded, and I wanted to find my person. Instead, I got cut off. She said that maybe I started dating too soon after my dad's passing. We started dating about 9 months later. This really threw me off. Took me a minute to recover. Before I could continue, she said that she just doesn't feel our communication styles are compatible. I asked her if she seriously thinks she has good communication skills, which she said feels like she does. I finally brought up the show. I said that I know that she went without me, and I explained how I know and my justification for looking up her location. This visibly shocked her, and she shut down again. I asked why she lied to me twice. No answer. I asked if she was cheating on me. No, she went with her college friends. She eventually confirmed that this was planned before I even asked to go. As I suspected, she just said that she didn't want to go to avoid what she felt was an uncomfortable conversation. I asked her if she felt like this was okay. Yes. She was worried that if she told the truth, I'd push her to let me go with them. I asked if I've ever tried to pressure her into doing something that she didn't want to do. Yes. I asked to watch movies that she doesn't like over and over again. A sore spot. I rarely got to pick what we watched, and she seems to intentionally avoid movies that are important to me. Over Christmas, I asked to watch Home Alone to continue a tradition I had with my dad. I wanted her to be there with me for support. She refused and found every way to invalidate my feelings. Have I ever pressured her outside of asking to watch a few of my favorite movies? No. I asked if I had done anything to make her feel unsafe opening up to me about any of this. No. She's just not the type to open up like that to anyone but her sister. How does she expect to have a serious relationship with someone if she won't open up to them? She feels like the right person will just make it easy for her. Does she feel like she needs to do any work on herself to be a better partner? No, because she doesn't really want to be a partner anymore. She said that our relationship was adding so much stress in her life, to the point that it was affecting her job and eating disorder recovery. I'm not sure how true this is. She's been doing really well with both. Where is the stress coming from in our relationship for her? The constant obligations and me constantly asking for more from her. I brought up how much work I've put into this relationship. I chauffeured her around for 2 months while her car was in the shop, visited her in the hospital every day, and then slept on her couch and took care of her for a week while she recovered from surgery. I've paid for the vast majority of dates, given her money when she overdrew her bank account, helped her move on short notice, and how I've always showed up for her when she's asked, and plenty of times when she didn't. I've also tried to model good relationship behavior and how exhausting and heartbreaking it is to not have that effort reciprocated. Instead, I rarely got to plan dates or pick what movies/shows we watched due to her refusal to compromise. I put in all of this effort trying to open up to her and to get her to open up to me. The few times I asked for her emotional support, even on small things like watching Home Alone with me, she refused. She didn't take any interest in my hobbies, even those that we had in common. We had next to no emotional intimacy, and I had to constantly forgive her for blowing up at me for little things, giving me the silent treatment or lying to me, while I always admitted when I was wrong and showed her that I was putting in the work to grow with our relationship. I've been giving so much without getting anything in return, and I didn't feel like my expectations were unrealistic at all. I was asking for the bare minimum. My needs weren't being met. She again just said that she doesn't think our communication styles are compatible. I guess this is the hill she wanted to die on to end our relationship. I did let her know that I didn't want to end things and I was still willing to work on us. I offered to get us a relationship counselor, but she refused. She was exhausted and couldn't do this anymore. At this point, I was exhausted too and agreed to end things. She never cried or anything during the whole conversation. She just switched between being cold or looking uncomfortable. By the end, I was kind of a mess. Never raised my voice or got angry though. A week or so later, I wasn't doing great, made the mistake of getting drunk alone at home, then made the horrible mistake of trying to text her. I asked if she'd thought about us and if she was willing to talk. I got hit with, "Don't contact me. It's not coming across to you, so I'm being explicit. I want nothing from you except to never hear from you or see you again. I'm blocking your number. Contact me again and I'll be getting a restraining order. Go get some help and leave me alone." So that was great. I haven't been doing great between how exhausted everything made me and the fact that this relationship and breakup managed to hit most of my relationship insecurities. I've been kind of a mess. It's just been rough realizing how I hardly ever felt appreciated, valued, respected, or prioritized throughout our relationship, and how I never really felt like she saw me as a partner or us as a team. I realized that I made a lot of excuses for her, given her childhood trauma and this being her first attempt at a serious relationship. A lot of her points about her not knowing me or us not having plans for the future felt really gaslighty, and it's messed with my head a lot. That and the constant nitpicking kind of destroyed my self-esteem. I honestly felt better after breaking things off with my ex-fiancé than I do after this breakup. Oh well, guess I have a lot of work to do on myself. Now on to the next story. Story 5. A bully became my sister-in-law and I gave her a pregnancy book as a prank, but it accidentally exposed her affair with my husband's friend. Now it has led to a family fight, and she's being cut from the will. My husband, Charlie, 26M. My sister-in-law, Cheryl, 28F. And I, 26F, all went to high school together. And that's how we know each other. Charlie and I were obviously in the same year and are pretty much high school sweethearts. We started dating in our sophomore year and have been together since then. With Cheryl, well, it's been different. I would like to say that we are high school nemeses since she's always hated me. And the feelings have been mutual. She was 2 years older than us, so she was a senior, but that did not stop her from being a total jerk to me at all times. She was a nasty bully in high school, and I would like to say that she has not changed since then. Unfortunately for her, I was the only kid who could actually stand up to her back in high school. Everybody else was scared to even speak to her because she and her clique of friends were known for doing nasty things to anybody who decided to go against them. They would spread rumors or do things so mean that some people had even changed schools because of them. I'm not even kidding. They were that bad. However, since I had always been friends with her brother, I was not afraid to stand up to her. Even before I started dating Charlie, we had been really good friends, and I would go over to his place all the time, so Cheryl did not seem like some undefeatable entity to me. She just seemed like another kid. I think that's the way it should have been for everyone, but I don't know, man, high school is weird. Anyway, I was not scared of her, and after I started dating Charlie, I got even more bold. She had no authority over me, even in her senior year when most people were terrified of her. I guess the fact that I was challenging her status was not really good for her back then, and she ended up doing something really horrible to me. One morning in high school, I just opened my locker like I usually do, and a bunch of fish water and dead fish fell on me. I was covered in all that disgusting slimy crap from head to toe. It was really embarrassing and humiliating, and I had to go home that day because I was so upset. I couldn't trace it back to Cheryl, but I knew that it had to be her because just the other day before that incident, we had a really nasty verbal fight in the cafeteria, and I had called her a brain-dead zombie in front of her own friends, and some of them had actually chuckled. So obviously they could not go unanswered, and she did that to me. Even Charlie knew that it had to be his sister, and because of that incident, they also ended up getting into a big fight. Even though he wasn't able to get her to apologize to me, he was at least able to get her to back off, because after that incident, she and I just never spoke to each other again. Even though he and I have been together for so long, things have been the same way. However, last year, Charlie and I ended up getting married, and a few weeks after the wedding, my in-laws told me and Cheryl that they knew that we had had our differences in the past, but now that we were family, we had to make more of an effort to be good to each other. Everybody had noticed how we don't speak to each other or even look at each other during events, and some nosy relatives had been questioning them about it, and it was very embarrassing to tell them the truth. So they wanted us to at least try and get along. I was willing to put things in the past since it's been a long time since high school ended, and I think it's about time that we moved on. So I told them that I was fine with it, and we shook on it like adults do. But it was not like we were going to become best friends overnight, so we decided to be at least cordial to each other at events instead of just giving each other the cold shoulder like we usually did before that. For the past year, ever since we had that discussion with my in-laws, things have been going pretty well. Whenever we would meet each other, we would greet one another and then move on with our day. I really thought that we had agreed to put our bad blood in the past, but she pulled something really mean again this year. A couple of months ago, on my birthday of all days, she showed up empty-handed at my birthday, which was fine. But then while I was unwrapping everybody's presents, she announced that she was actually giving me cooking lessons and sent me an online program that she had purchased at the party itself, and said that it was supposed to be a joke. But I didn't laugh, and neither did anybody else. For context, it was incredibly insulting because I had done all the cooking for the day by myself. Even though I'm not a professional chef, I've always loved being in the kitchen and cooking up new things. It's been a hobby of mine ever since I was a child. Her saying that she was going to give me cooking lessons right after she had an entire meal that had been made all by me, and everyone knew that since Charlie had announced it, was just really mean. I had put in a lot of hard work and had been up since 6 o'clock in the morning that day to make sure that everything was perfect, so I really took that to heart. Even after she clarified that it was a joke, nobody really seemed to laugh, and some people just forced out a chuckle so she would drop it. But she just went on and on about it. She kept saying that she was just joking, but she really believed that I needed cooking lessons because everything that she had eaten that day was making her feel queasy, and she felt like she was going to throw up any moment and kept joking about how everybody needed to clear the way to the washroom in case she needed to barf. By the end of the evening, she had been getting on my last nerve, and I was very relieved when she finally left. She didn't even bother to say goodbye after she had spent the entire day making jokes at the expense of my cooking skills, which are not even that bad. Charlie told me that everything that I had made was really delicious, and so did everybody else, so I don't even know what she was on about. Anyway, I had actually started to believe that she might turn out to be a decent human being after all, but after my birthday, I made up my mind that I was going to go back to ignoring her once again since she was clearly still stuck in her high school mean girl mode, and somebody like her did not deserve to be on good terms with me. Now last week, she celebrated her birthday, and even though we're not getting along right now, she had to invite me because I had invited her to my party, and it would be really weird if Charlie went and I did not. So just for the sake of keeping the peace of the family, she invited me, and it turned out to be a big mistake because I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine and gave her this book. I gave her What to Expect When You're Expecting a Classic, based on a conversation that I had overheard a couple of weeks back. For context, 3 weeks ago, Cheryl had showed up at our house, and she seemed like she was pretty devastated and insisted that she wanted to speak to Charlie in private. So I cleared out while she and her brother were having a conversation in the living room. But she didn't know that I was standing right outside, and I was trying to eavesdrop on their conversation. Yeah, I know it's not ethical or whatever, but I was really curious to know what was going on, and I just couldn't wait for her to go, and then Charlie would tell me everything. So I just decided to try and overhear what they were talking about, and I learned that Cheryl was pregnant, and she did not go into the details, but she was really worried because she did not feel ready to have a baby yet, and she had come to her brother to seek advice. He told her that even if she didn't feel ready for it, she had to talk about this to her husband, and if even after that she felt like she was not ready, then they could always have the pregnancy terminated since it was still in the early stages. But he thought that speaking to her husband might help her calm down and deal with things better. So he comforted her for a bit, and then she left. After she had left, I spoke to Charlie about whatever I had heard, and both of us agreed that she had been acting really weird because even if she was not ready to have a baby, it did not make any sense for her to come to us, and she had been saying certain things that almost felt like she wanted Charlie's help in terminating the pregnancy in secret. But he was not going to do something so underhanded since he believed that her husband deserved to know before she did anything. Don't get it wrong, ultimately the decision is the woman's, but she was married, and we felt like her husband deserves to at least know. Anyway, since then, we had not heard anything with regard to her pregnancy, but I decided to play a little prank on her and give her that book. She did not unwrap the presents in front of all the guests of the party, thankfully, but it didn't matter because the book really got her into trouble, and now there is a chance that her husband might end up leaving her. The day after her birthday, she called me up in tears and said that I had ruined her life and accused me of sabotaging her marriage on purpose. But I had no idea what she was talking about. I couldn't even get her to tell me what was going on because she was just so angry that she kept yelling at me. And after she was done, She hung up without another word. After that phone call, my in-laws called me, and they told me exactly what had happened. Apparently, she had been unwrapping all the gifts with her husband, and then that book had come up. I had even written a note and attached it to the book saying that Charlie and I wanted to congratulate her. She hadn't announced the pregnancy or anything yet, but I just wanted to be mean to her and mess with her like she had messed with me on my birthday. I really had no idea that it would lead to such serious repercussions. That one book had led to a huge fight because apparently what I did not know was that her husband was sterile, and there was no way that she had gotten pregnant by him. So now I think that she might have been cheating, and her husband had already been suspecting her, and that book just strengthened his doubts. Now nobody in the family knows if she had actually been cheating or not, but honestly, who are we kidding? If he is biologically incapable of having children, there is no way that she is not cheating. Anyway, that's none of my business. All I know is that she had come to Charlie and had expected him to help her out with terminating the pregnancy in secret, and now we finally know why she was so panicky when she spoke to Charlie and why she wanted to get it done secretly. Since she's a housewife and whatever she spends can be traced by her husband, she obviously couldn't let that happen if she wanted to terminate the pregnancy without him knowing. Even withdrawing cash would be suspicious because it would still be a significant amount of money that would lead to questions. Anyway, Cheryl tried really hard to convince her husband that I was just kidding and there was nothing going on and the book was just a prank. But he refused to believe it because he did not think that Charlie and I would make a joke like this and there definitely had to be something to it. So he asked Cheryl to leave, and now she is living with her parents. My in-laws called me because they wanted me to speak to her husband and convince him that I had just given her the book to mess with her and convince her husband to talk to her and come back because he had already been suspecting her of cheating, and now her faithfulness had been pushed even more into question. They believe that this is my fault and that I shouldn't have done what I did. But I don't believe that. So my in-laws and I have been at odds for the past week. I think that I was perfectly justified in doing what I did because of the way she had behaved at my birthday party. I really had no idea that it would lead to such drama, so I don't think I can take the fall for that. If she didn't want trouble in her marriage, she probably should have just stayed loyal to her husband. I don't think it's fair to blame me for that, and Charlie feels the same way. He does think that the gift was a tad bit too much compared to what happened at my birthday party. But either way, he doesn't think that I need to apologize to Cheryl or even speak to her husband about any of this. My in-laws kept arguing with us, telling us that we needed to fix the situation because her marriage was at stake, and if we didn't convince her husband that this was just a joke, they might end up getting divorced and that's not going to be good for the family. But I believe that if she had actually been pregnant when she came to speak to Charlie that day and her husband is sterile, she had definitely been cheating. And if that's the case, we don't want to defend her and get involved in any capacity. Besides, the book was just payback for the jokes that she cracked on my birthday, and I had no idea that it would lead to something like this. So it's not like I did anything on purpose, and I have nothing to be sorry for. But all of them are acting like I'm the villain, the mastermind who had this entire evil plan in mind to destroy her on purpose or something. This is really weird, and now I'm doubting my decisions. Update 1. Hi, so it's been 2 weeks since I gave Cheryl that book, and up until now we have been refusing to speak to her husband, and we are going to stick to doing that in the future as well because from what we know, she had actually been cheating on her husband with another man. I'm not sure who, but I think it's somebody from high school, and what's worse, I think it's somebody from Charlie's friend circle because a couple of days ago, we had a conversation or rather an argument with Cheryl on the phone, and she said that it was very unfair that she was being held responsible for all of this, but Charlie's friend was equally responsible, and yet he was not getting any flack and was even refusing to stand up for her. Charlie has quite a lot of married friends from high school, so we don't exactly know who she's talking about right now. But that's not even our biggest problem. My in-laws are being very difficult to deal with. They keep insisting that I need to talk to her husband before he files for divorce, which I don't think he has done yet. He just keeps saying that he'll do it, but if he really wants to separate, he should have done it already. I don't understand what he's waiting for. But anyway, they think that they still have time, and if I just talk to him, I might be able to convince him not to leave her and that I was just playing a prank. But I have refused to let myself be dragged into all of this drama since I don't have anything to do with it. I just want to sit back and relax, but they have been making it very difficult for us. So yesterday we had to make a very tough decision and finally block all 3 of them because they have been bothering us a little too much, and it's about to be 2 weeks. We can't keep talking to them and trying to make them understand where we are coming from. I know a lot of people in the comments section of my original thought that it was not nice of me to do what I did, but she was literally a bully to me in high school. I don't think I have to feel bad for what I did to her, and she had been cheating. But anyway, it's a free country, and people are allowed to disagree with me. Update 2. Hi, so it's been 3 days since our last update, and we were finally able to figure out who she had been having that affair with. This friend of Charlie that she had been referring to turned out to be one of his closest friends. So this is quite unexpected. Charlie had been venting to his friends about how difficult things had been for him for the past 2 weeks because his family was being very unreasonable right now, and I guess his friend just couldn't take it anymore and decided to confess everything. He contacted Charlie and told him that he had been having an affair, and apparently all of this started about 1 year ago, around the time of our wedding. It was quite shocking for us, and we are still struggling to process this because Charlie is really close to all of his friends, and a betrayal like this was something we had never expected. This friend of his has been married for 3 years, and from whatever we have observed, he and his wife seem to be really in love. I know the woman personally. She can't stop talking about her husband, and now I just really feel bad for her. So we immediately decided to cut him off, and we are not telling anybody about any of this right now since we didn't want to defame him, but we are definitely not going to entertain this anymore. We even advised him to come clean to his wife instead of us because she's the one who really deserves to know the truth. Nobody should ever have to go through something like this. He also sent us proof of Cheryl cheating on her husband with him, and we have come to the conclusion that we were right to not let ourselves get dragged into this drama. Nothing good would come out of it for us, at least, so we're keeping them blocked, and that's going to be our final call. From what we know, they have not spoken to anybody else about this, and everybody's still assuming that we are on good terms with my in-laws, and Charlie's relatives seem to know nothing of the drama that's going on behind the scenes. I'm guessing that they're keeping things under wraps because this entire situation is pretty embarrassing for the family, and they don't want to ruin their reputation. I guess that's a really shallow reason, but I actually appreciate the fact that they are so concerned about how people perceive them since it's helping us in keeping all of this quiet because we don't really want to deal with other people right now. We have enough on our plates as it is. One of his cousins is getting married in a few weeks, so they're going to have to attend that wedding. Given the current situation, we don't know if my in-laws or Cheryl are going to be there, but if they do choose to attend, boy, it's going to be really weird for everybody involved. Update 3. Hey, so this update is coming almost 2 months after my last. Nothing interesting really happened in these past 2 months. After we blocked my in-laws, we sort of forgot about them. There was no news from their end either, and they did not try to get in touch with us after we blocked them. There was no pregnancy announcement and no announcement of a divorce either, so we assumed that maybe Cheryl and her husband had been able to talk things through and patch things up. Good for them, I guess. We don't really care about what's going on in their marital life because both Charlie and I know that cheating never goes undiscovered forever. And when her husband finally finds out the truth, she'll definitely get what she deserves. And about the pregnancy, I guess she had terminated the pregnancy somehow. Anyway, whatever happened, it was not our concern. So we did not bother ourselves with it and stuck to our own business until a couple of days ago when we met his family at his cousin's wedding. All of them were in attendance, including my in-laws, Cheryl, and her husband as well. Once we were there, we did not even greet each other and pretended like the others did not even exist. And obviously, the rest of the family picked up on it immediately, so they realized that something bad had happened, and immediately people started asking us all sorts of questions. They tried to be subtle about it, but we knew that they were trying to get to know what the gossip was. However, we did not entertain anybody and just tried to keep to ourselves so that nobody would bother us. But Cheryl did not take the same approach as us and decided to blab her mouth off in spite of knowing that we knew the truth. We were going to be there in the hotel for 3 days, and it was only a matter of time until we went home, so we were ready to tolerate her. But she started saying such horrible things about us that we couldn't help but confront her about it, and unfortunately, that led to a very public showdown between our families at the rehearsal dinner. I regret the fact that it happened because it was somebody else's wedding, and Charlie and his cousin were on good terms, but now it's because of us that one of the events got completely ruined. Of course, after that kind of scene, we could not stay any longer and had to leave before the wedding even took place. We have since apologized to her several times, and she has said that she is cool with it and stuff, but we still feel really bad about what happened. And then, on the other hand, There is Cheryl and my in-laws who did not even bother to apologize to Charlie's cousin even after being the one who is actually responsible for creating all of this drama. At least we left of our own accord. They had literally been asked to leave by the other members of the family after we left. Serves them right, they deserve this sort of humiliation. When Charlie's cousin told him about it the day before her wedding, while we were apologizing to her on the phone, it was quite satisfying for both of us. The reason we even had ended up in a fight was because she had been telling all the relatives and anybody who would listen to her that apparently we had tried to ruin her marriage by telling her husband lies about how she had been cheating and stuff, but we had been unsuccessful in trying to sabotage her marriage. Obviously that was not true because, like we said, we don't care about what goes on in her marital life. Since her husband had proven how stupid he is by choosing to stay with a woman like that, we were even willing to let that slide because we were attending somebody else's wedding, and we did not want to throw a tantrum. But then she started claiming that we were the ones who had an open marriage and I wanted to build a relationship with her husband, which is why I had always been so jealous of her. That was something that we could not tolerate, so we decided to confront her. And on the evening of the rehearsal dinner, I brought up all the proof, the screenshots that we had received from Charlie's friend, which I had been keeping to myself for so long. But now Charlie and I thought that it was finally time to defend myself since she couldn't just say what she wanted and get away with it. Now her husband finally knows the truth and can no longer deny it. And whether or not he is going to make the right choice for himself and leave her is his call, but at least now there's going to be nobody doubting us anymore, and at least we had the decency to leave on our own and did not have to be thrown out like they did. It was just a really bad couple of days, but we are trying to get over it. Now the entire family knows what kind of person Cheryl is, and I just feel pity for her husband because he had chosen to patch up with her, but even that was pointless now. Now I really hope he finds the courage to leave, and if he chooses to stay with her, then that just means that he has absolutely no self-respect or dignity of his own. She had been accusing us of sabotaging her marriage for so long. We finally decided to go ahead and do it, and now she's going to have to face the consequences of trying to go out of her way to bully us. I don't know how she expected to get away with all of this. Charlie and I had literally been standing up to her since high school, and I think we have made it very clear that we're not afraid of her, so we were not going to back down now either. She should have known that. Update 4. So it's happening. It's been 2 weeks since we came back from Charlie's cousin's wedding, and today I finally heard from a couple of relatives that Cheryl had posted that she and her husband were getting divorced. She has asked everybody to respect their privacy at this difficult time in her life and has said that it's a mutual decision to part ways. What a load of baloney. I don't understand why she's acting like people were not present at the wedding and literally her entire family is not aware of what actually happened and the real reason why they're getting divorced. We will certainly be respecting her privacy. I don't think anybody needs to ask her what has happened because we all know already. Even her friends have been able to find out because Charlie decided to tell some of his friends, and then that's how the gossip started. We don't even regret what we did because she had been talking so much crap about us in the past. I don't think that we even need to feel sorry about what we did or for her. If she is going to go low, we are going to go lower, period. She has always been a big bully, and I think we are doing the right thing because somebody needed to take her down a peg, and we were glad to be able to do that. If that makes us the bad guys for some people, that's fine with us. For instance, my in-laws have decided to cut us out of their life completely and have even communicated that to Charlie by having their lawyer contact him and say that they have decided to go no contact with us and are probably going to be cutting us out of the inheritance too. As if we're going to hear that and immediately start begging for forgiveness. That's not going to happen. We are not sellouts who can be bought with money, and besides, they really should keep all their money to themselves since they are going to have to support their daughter now, probably for the rest of their lives, seeing how she hasn't worked since she graduated and has been relying on either her parents or her husband. So yeah, by all means, they can keep their money and Cheryl with themselves. We did what we thought was right, and we are not going to act like we're sorry for it. Charlie and I are perfectly content with our lives at the moment, and we don't care about anybody else. Now on to the next story. Story 6. My husband secretly upgraded to business class and abandoned me with our 2 toddlers on a flight. So I was extremely angry and threatened divorce while staying with my sister. This is about my husband, Andrew, 32M, and me, 30F, and our kids, our 3-year-old daughter and our 1.5-year-old son. Some background info. Andrew and I have been married for 5 years and together for almost 8 years. We met through friends and have grown through life together. So far, everything has been great, but he has had a lot to learn in the parenting department. When our daughter was born, he was very clueless about everything, and I was the one who was doing most of the work. We did have a nanny to take care of her when both of us were away at work, but when the two of us were at home on the weekends and stuff, I would find myself doing most of the work because he just had no idea how to go about it and constantly said that he was nervous to take care of the baby on his own. Gradually, he did learn, but it took him some time. I don't mind that, but after that, even after our son was born recently, he had a lot of trouble getting into the groove of handling two kids. Because he took so much time to get used to everything, it almost felt like I was a single mother for a while. Every time that we would go out and take our kids outside with us, I was doing everything, and he was just there. We had a couple of fights about it, but I decided to forgive him for it because I couldn't use this against him. The fact that he was taking time to get used to it, but eventually, I knew that he would do a good job at being a father, or at least I hoped that he would. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, we decided to take a family vacation to Los Angeles. It's a beautiful place, and my sister, Abby, 26F, just recently moved there with her husband. So I thought that I would take some time to go see her as well. We had been planning for the trip for weeks because traveling with kids was not that easy. Anyway, 2 days ago, we finally got to the airport, and while we were there, Andrew told me that he needed to use the washroom and left for a while. I thought he would come back soon, but almost half an hour passed, and I was getting worried, so I decided to call him and ask him where he was. When I called him, he picked up instantly and was trying to beat about the bush when I asked him why he wasn't back yet. But I told him to cut it out, and then he finally told me that while booking the flight tickets, he had upgraded himself to business class since he realized that he had enough points to do it. I immediately felt very betrayed and angry, and I told him that this was not cool in the slightest. But he said that he knew I wouldn't approve of it, which is why he hadn't told me. It was a very stupid thing to say, and it just made my anger even worse. I told him that he needed to come back to his family immediately. I was already very upset that he had even tried to do something like this, and now if he didn't come back, then I would just go home with the kids and he could go on the trip by himself. Instead of coming back, he started arguing with me and said that he had been working really hard for the family and he deserved a break. Besides, it was not even that long of a flight, and he believed that I could handle the kids on my own for 3 hours. I tried to explain to him that it was not just about the kids. I just wanted him to be there with me because I thought this was supposed to be a family vacation, and if it didn't even start on the right foot, then what's the point of going on such a trip? I was really hurt, and I tried to get that through to him, but he was so thick. He didn't even realize how upset I was and just told me that he deserved a break and hung up. That move really pissed me off because if we are talking about people who deserve a break, I think I should be the first in line because I'm also a working parent, and in addition to that, I also take care of the household and the kids with very little help from him. Yes, he does work longer hours as compared to me, but he also gets to relax when he comes back home, which I don't. So if I'm not asking for a break away from my family, he doesn't get to do it either. I thought about going back home, but then I decided that I was going to go on the trip and make sure that I made it worth it for me. My daughter had a lot of questions about why her father was not with us, but I didn't answer any of them and just told her that once we got there, she would get all the answers herself. So we boarded the flight on our own, and after he had hung up on me, I did not speak to him at all. I'm just incredibly thankful that my kids decided to be quiet that day and fell asleep as soon as they boarded the flight. Once we landed, I did not wait for Andrew at all. I didn't even wait to grab our bags. I just booked a cab and went straight to the address that Abby had given me. I was extremely upset, and those 3 hours in the aircraft by myself had made me realize how unfair all of this was. So I went to my sister's house, and when I showed up, she was really happy to see me. But then I sat down and explained the situation to her, and she told me that I was welcome to stay with her, and I did not need to worry about anything. I had left all of my stuff behind, but I was not worried about my own things, since I did not have anything important in my bags apart from clothes and shoes, and those could be replaced easily. I was just worried about the stuff that belonged to my kids. But Abby told me that she would get it all replaced, and I didn't have to worry about any of it. After we had landed, Andrew had tried to call me several times, but I had just been ignoring him. He did not even have the address to Abby's home, so he couldn't even show up. He kept texting me, asking me to answer the phone and tell him where I was, but I was very hurt, so I didn't bother. After almost 2 hours since we had landed, I finally decided to call him back, and then we finally had a conversation. He was quite panic-stricken, and he told me that for the past 2 hours, he had been waiting at the airport with all the bags that belonged to the family, but we were nowhere to be found, and he had been worried sick about what had happened to us. So I told him that I was completely safe and sound, and the kids were with me. I told him that I was at Abby's place and that I did not want to see him for the rest of the vacation, and as soon as we went back, I would file for a divorce. He sounded shocked when I said that and told me that I was overreacting and making a bigger deal out of this than I needed to. He told me to come to the hotel and we could talk things through calmly, but I was in no mood. I told him that this one incident had made me realize how unfair things had been for the past couple of years, ever since our daughter had been born. I also told him that he had said that he needed a break and some time away from his family, so now he shouldn't complain about the time that he was getting since he had asked for it himself. He was very upset and tried to tell me that he hadn't mentioned it that way, and he was really sorry if I had misunderstood him, but he just meant that things had been really stressful at work since he was trying to provide for the family to the best of his abilities, and he just needed some peace and quiet. I literally laughed out loud at that point and explained to him that I had also felt these exact same things, but I had never tried to abandon my family and run away from it, and that's what he had done in spite of knowing that I was not happy about his decision. I told him that I had always been more involved with the household chores and raising our kids than he had ever been. I had actually been happy taking care of everything since I knew that we were a family, and at the end of the day we were going to stick together. But after what he had done, I was not so sure anymore. He tried to claim that he had equal contribution, but that was not true in the slightest. I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but it was like I was the one who was solely responsible for everything in the household, and I would have to tell him exactly what to do, and only then would he do it. We lived in the same house, and I'm pretty sure that he was aware that certain things needed to be done, like maybe getting the groceries on time or buying things the kids needed or even things like washing the dishes or doing the laundry. It really sucked that I would have to tell him to get it done, or he just wouldn't do it on his own. I had tried to explain to him several times that he had free will. He could see that certain things needed to be done, and he did not need to wait for me to come around to tell him to do it. But he always had excuses ready. He was always too exhausted after work to notice these things, and I had always accepted that excuse. But I believe that he owed me at least a discussion before he just upgraded himself to business class and left us alone. He was also only there for the fun part with the kids on the weekends, but when it came to raising them, teaching them right from wrong and keeping them disciplined, he barely was a part of any of that, and he always got off being the good cop and the fun parent while I had to put in all the real hard work. I had these complaints against him for a long time, and I had told him about it several times, and he always promised me that he would try to be more proactive, but nothing ever changed, and I was sick of waiting. For the past couple of years, I honestly started feeling like a single mother whose husband would only be around on the weekends like a fun relative and not literally the father of her children. I communicated all of this to him, and yet again he told me that he would try to change, but this time I was not buying it. After the incident at the airport, I did not trust him anymore since he had really pushed me too far this time. I had made it very clear to him that I wanted him to be with us, and in spite of that, he had just ended the phone call abruptly and left me on my own with our 2 kids. So I told him that now he could enjoy the vacation on his own, and I was going to enjoy it my way. We were already going to go our separate ways, and once we came back, I was going to make sure that we lived separately as well, so he could get all the space to himself that he required so badly. After that, I hung up, and Abby said that I did the right thing because it was very obvious that Andrew had been given several chances to change, and yet he had not. After the phone call, Andrew kept trying to call me again and even started texting me that he was really sorry and that he was going to fix the situation, but I just needed to come to the hotel and talk to him in person. He kept telling me that he was going to make things right, but he just needed a chance to speak to me, and after telling me to come to the hotel a couple of times, he told me that he could also come to meet me wherever I was. All he needed was the address to Abby's house, but right now I just don't want to see him, so I've been ignoring those messages. But a couple of hours ago, I received a phone call from my mother-in-law. She and I have never had any sort of animosity, so I decided to pick up, and both she and my father-in-law were on the phone with me. They told me that they had heard about whatever had happened from Andrew and said that they wanted to apologize to me on his behalf. I told them that it was really nice of them to do so, but this was between me and Andrew. They did not need to feel bad for any of this. However, they not only contacted me for this reason but also because they had heard from Andrew that I was apparently thinking about filing for a divorce, and they just wanted to request me not to do that because then it would make it very difficult for them to see the kids as regularly as they did. I tried to reassure them that I was not going to restrict our children from being able to see them. Truth be told, I haven't even thought about whether I'm going to file for full custody or not. It's very scary, and at the moment, I'm not sure what I want to do, to be honest. Anyway, I tried to explain to them that things were going to be fine, but they were very panicky and kept begging me to go back to Andrew and said that I should give him a chance. They said that we have been together for almost 8 years, and things have only hit a rough patch, but just because of that, I shouldn't think about leaving him so soon. I was sure about what to do before that phone call, but now after getting off the phone with his parents, I feel weird. Andrew has still been texting me and keeps telling me to talk to him and says that he knows that we can work things out because we have been together for almost a decade and have been through much worse situations, so we will definitely be able to work this out as well. I feel like I might actually have overreacted since I can see that all of them are trying really hard to get me to go back to him, but I also feel that what he did at the airport was not fair at all. So, AITA for threatening to get a divorce because my husband decided to upgrade to business class and left me alone with our 2 kids right before a family vacation? Update 1. Hi, so 3 days have passed since I landed in LA, and I have been living with Abby and her husband. They have been kind enough to open up their home to me and have been there for me in this difficult time. I've been sharing clothes with Abby, and the kids got some new clothes for themselves. However, we can finally go back to wearing our own clothes now because earlier today I finally met with Andrew, and he brought along our bags with him. Last night, after a lot of deliberation and a discussion with Abby and her husband, I finally decided to respond to Andrew. I gave him the address and that was it. I did not say anything else. I figured that if he wanted to show up, he would come on his own and would not require me to say anything else. Besides, after all that had happened, I felt really awkward. This morning he showed up with the bags and everything, and when he came, Abby and her husband decided to take the kids and go into a separate room. The kids were quite happy to see him since they had been asking about him a lot. There was a lot of hugging and screaming, and I instantly knew that even if I did file for a divorce, I would never be able to get myself to file for full custody as well because of everything. They seemed to be very happy around their father, and he was just as happy to be around his kids. Anyway, once the kids were in a separate room, we finally got to talking. It was awkward, but he told me that he was really sorry from the bottom of his heart for not being a better father and a better husband. He said that he hadn't even thought that any of this was a big deal, but he hadn't exactly been thinking about how I felt and had just been thinking about his own self, and it was really incredibly selfish of him. He finally told me that he really appreciated everything that I had done for the family and how hard I continued to push myself all the time just to keep everybody happy. I told him that these were nice things to hear, but I needed real and tangible change, and I had given him several chances to do so, but he never took any of it seriously, and that was why we were in the situation today. I told him that what had happened at the airport had really hurt me, and maybe I had overreacted a bit, but honestly, everything just kept piling on, and I couldn't deal with any of this anymore. I thought that he was going to get defensive again, but to my surprise, he came to me, got onto his knees, and took my hands in his own. That was when I realized that I still loved him no matter how he behaved with me because the way that I felt when he did that made me feel like I was safe and nothing bad could ever happen to me. I started crying while he was on his knees, and he told me that he was really sorry and that he knew he needed to step up and be there for his family. He also went on to explain that so far he had made his work his life, and every day that he would come back home, he would just be so drained and worried about the future since he believed that whatever he was making was not enough. So much so that he couldn't even bring himself to think about anything else. He even said that he had been taking anxiety medication for the past couple of months because of how stressed out he had been. I didn't know that, and he said that he didn't tell me because he didn't want me to worry about these things. He said that he had fallen asleep at the wheel and he was ashamed of it, but he just wanted one chance to make it work with me, and he promised me that he would make it worth it and I would not regret it. I was still crying while he was saying all of this, so he wiped my tears and sat beside me, and just like all times, I put my head on his shoulder, and we just sat there like that for a couple of minutes. I know this might not be the decision a lot of people will agree with, but I decided that I was going to stay with him. I really didn't care about what other people would say because I love him so much. I don't think I can ever love anybody that way, but I also love my children, and I wanted the best for them. So I told him that I needed some time to think about things right now, and he told me that I could have all the time that I needed. So after that, we hugged, and he went back to the hotel. I have discussed things with Abby, and she told me that she has no advice for me. She just thinks that I'm a good wife and an even better mother, so she knows that I will do what's right for the family. I thought about things from Andrew's perspective after the conversation that we had today, and I guess it can't be easy to be in a position like that because while we both work, he definitely has always been more stressed about his work than I have ever been. He comes from a family where he has had to face extremely tough situations since his father lost his job and was struggling for a good couple of years when he was younger, so he knows what it means to struggle for money, and I guess that explains why he had been so focused on his work and nothing else. It's not an excuse, I know, but it is what it is. Also, the fact that he had been so stressed out for so long and hadn't even told me about it because he didn't want me to worry, it just makes me realize that we have just had a lapse in communication, and if we can fix that, maybe we can move past this. So now I'm going to think about it for a while, and then let's see what happens. Update 2. Hi, so it's been a couple of days since my last update. 2 days after that conversation with Andrew, I decided to go live with him in the hotel that we had booked in. I finally got out of Abby's hair with my kids. I thanked her for letting me stay with her and being there for me. She and her husband even dropped me off at the hotel, and since then we had been staying together. We figured that our fight was leading to the kids getting disappointed since we had promised them a fun vacation, and now we were staying separately, and they barely got to do anything fun. So we are doing everything that we had planned we would do, and the kids seem to be much happier now that we are together. I still have a lot of unresolved issues, but for the sake of the children, we are trying to keep all of that aside and just be there for each other as a family. I think that's the most important part of our lives right now. Being there for our children and making sure that they are happy. He was right, we have been through much worse situations, so I think we can make it through this as well. When I came back to the hotel with the kids, I told him that I was not considering getting a divorce right now, but we still had a lot of things to work through. However, as soon as I told him that I was not thinking about divorce anymore, he was so happy that he literally hugged me, lifted me in the air, and did a full twirl. I don't even think he heard the last part, and I didn't have the heart to repeat it because I was laughing so hard. Anyway, he keeps saying sorry every morning and has been doing his very best to make up for everything. I'm literally being treated like a princess right now, and I can't say that I have any complaints about his behavior at the moment. If things continue at this rate, I might even forgive him a lot earlier than I had planned. Update 3. Hi, so this update is particularly to address something that people have been saying. I've been receiving a constant stream of comments from a particularly hateful section saying that I'm a terrible mother and that I'm an idiot for getting back together with Andrew. I can understand that some people might not agree with my decision to get back together with him, but only I know that Andrew and I have been together for a really long time. We have had our fair share of issues, and what he did recently was not right, but if he is willing to work on it, then I want to give him a chance. I want to fight for our marriage, and I don't think that there is anything wrong with it. Lots of women do it, and for some of them, things actually turn out to be great, and I want to believe that I'm one of those women because Andrew has started changing right after we had that discussion. If he goes back to his usual self, then I know what to do, but as of now, I want to keep our marriage intact, and I really don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that for myself. The constant barrage of hate that I've been receiving is breaking my heart. Lots of people have even been accusing me of being selfish for getting together with him, even though he's not a good father. I personally don't agree with that. I think he's a good father and he's trying to be better, so that's what really counts. Anyway, we are almost at the end of our vacation right now, and things have been going incredibly well for both of us, so I had to break it to you guys, but all of you were wrong. Once we get back home, we are going to start couples counseling, and I know for a fact that it's going to help us. The only reason I'm even posting updates right now is for the well-wishers because quite a lot of you have been invested in my story, and I wanted to know more. So if some people really think that I'm not meant to be with him, then you guys are free to not read any updates on this post. But please just keep your hateful comments to yourself because it's not worth it. Andrew and I are really happy together, and our kids are better off for it. Ultimately, we know what's best for our family, and I think people should really respect that. So if you're rooting for us to break up, I'm sorry to inform you, but that's not going to happen. Update 4. Hi everyone. Wow. It's been quite some time since I came on Reddit. My last post was pretty intense. I guess it was not a real update. It was mostly just a rant about the hate I'd been receiving, but I'm happy to tell you guys that Andrew and I are still together. It has been 7 months since our vacation, and after we returned, we started looking for counselors near us and have been in couples counseling for the past couple of months. It's been going really well for us, and Andrew has been cutting back on his hours at work as well. He is more involved in the household now and takes care of the kids like never before, and now it's not just the fun part that he's there for. He's there for them at all times whenever he is at home. He doesn't bring the office back home with him anymore, and I'm really glad about that. It also really feels like we've been able to find each other after a really long time. We have ramped up the date nights and are trying to reignite the spark because while we were on vacation, we realized that we really did love each other. But things have just been so hectic and intense for the past couple of years that we had forgotten to show each other the love that we felt. So we get our parents to babysit the children while we go out a couple of nights every month because we really need it. There's more to life than just working and kids, and I guess that was part of the reason why things were going so awry. Anyway, we have been actively working on our marriage, and Andrew has never been a better husband or a father. Most importantly, the kids are happier than ever, and that's really what both of us honestly wanted. They are thrilled to have their father around more, and whenever I look at them, I feel like I made the right choice by sticking to him. Money is going to come and go, but ultimately we are all that we have. I think he had been a little too stressed about the future, but in a couple of weeks we are going to take another road trip this time, and it's going to be much better. Our kids are quite excited about it, and we are going to make sure that this time everything is perfect. And you know what? Even if it's not, we want to find a way to deal with it like a family because if the past couple of months have taught us anything, it is that we can do whatever we set our mind to as long as we have each other. And I know that it sounds like something straight out of a corny film, but it's true. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Kicked out as a teen for false rumors spread by my brother. Years later, parents see my success and demand money after they abandoned me. I am a 28-year-old female with a twin brother. Growing up, my twin brother and I experienced very different treatment from our parents. My parents genuinely seemed convinced, for some reason, that my brother was destined for greatness, while I was the so-called black sheep, just because I was more interested in playing sports or making new friends than studying. They constantly compared us, which was demoralizing and bruised my self-esteem from a young age. As a child, I had to watch my brother have extravagant parties on our birthday with his friends while I was treated like an afterthought. He often had sleepovers with his friends while I was never even allowed to bring my friends back to our place. To be honest, I loathed every minute of my childhood. The only person in the family who seemed to care about me was my grandmother. When she visited us, she always brought me my favorite chocolates and occasionally slipped a few dollars to me so that I could treat myself later. As the years passed, this blatant favoritism for my twin brother gradually transformed into emotional abuse directed at me. My parents would openly mock my grades and belittle my hobbies. It felt as though no matter how much I tried, I could never meet their expectations of being the perfect child. Although I was good at sports, they barred me from participating in extracurricular activities as they wanted me to concentrate only on studies, just like my brother. It was frustrating, and I felt helpless as a child. Later, in my sophomore year, I got grounded yet again, and this time the crime was having Snapchat on my phone. I had done absolutely nothing wrong except, like all teenagers my age, I had downloaded this app to stay connected with my friends. However, according to my parents, this was a huge crime and a breach of their trust, as they had forbidden me from communicating with my friends. They went batshit crazy on me and threw all my stuff around the room. They then took the doors off their hinges and told me that I would have no privacy as long as I lived under their roof. Watching my parents abuse me this way, my twin brother, instead of supporting me, made my life worse. The toxic environment created by our parents' unjust actions allowed him to exploit the situation to his advantage. He adopted a pattern of lying about me, falsely accusing me of things I never did so that he could get away with everything. If he stole something, he'd effortlessly shift the blame to me, and my parents, already inclined to believe the worst about me, readily accepted his lies. He would demean me in front of my friends at school and would make fun of my appearance. Despite this, I had a wide circle of friends at school because I was approachable and open to making connections. My twin, however, struggled socially, and he started to resent that I could talk to people while he, as an introvert, felt awkward. This jealousy reached a boiling point during our 14th birthday party when no one showed up for him on his birthday. I have no idea why his friends did that to him, but in stark contrast, my friends took me out for ice cream, and I had an overall wonderful day. This infuriated my brother further. To take revenge, my brother began to spread false rumors at school about me, where he would portray me as a spoiled brat. He would falsely tell everyone that I was allegedly physically abusing him at home. Since our parents loved him more, unbeknownst to me, he took things to a disturbing level to fabricate evidence. He would punch himself, purposefully inflicting injuries like a black eye or bruised shoulder. The next day, he would confidently walk into school displaying the self-inflicted injuries as proof of my supposed violence and make up stories. Whenever our parents questioned him about the injuries, he would lie, saying that it was due to innocent activities like playing football with his friends. The lies and his alleged black eyes started to gain traction, and people began to believe his distorted version of events. It wasn't long before whispers started circulating, and even my friends began to look at me with suspicion. At first, I noticed subtle changes. Friends who once chatted with me in the hallways suddenly became distant. Invitations to group hangouts became fewer and farther between. It was like a switch had been flipped, and people were hesitant to associate with the supposedly spoiled girl accused of violence. One day, I mustered the courage to ask my ex-best friend why things had changed between us. She opened up about how my twin brother had been spreading rumors about me. She revealed the detailed lies he had told everyone, accusing me of things I had never done. I was shocked to hear her words. The feeling was a mix of disbelief and betrayal, as if the ground beneath me had given way. My brother, someone I grew up with, was spreading lies about me, accusing me of things I would never even dream of doing. It was a betrayal that cut deep, leaving me with a knot in my stomach and a heavy heart. I confronted my brother the day after school, but he chose to ignore me. I begged him to stop lying about me, but he smirked at me and told me that I deserved to rot alone. I was at a loss for words because his lies and behavior were starting to scare me. I wanted to talk to my parents, but I was afraid that they would believe my brother over me. The isolation stung, especially because I had always been open to making friends. It felt like my brother's jealousy-fueled lies were tearing down the connections I had built over the years. Teachers, too, began to catch wind of the rumors. It was a surreal experience, as if I were living in a parallel reality where my true self was overshadowed by the malicious story spun by my own twin. The lies had grown beyond mere teenage gossip. They were now shaping how people truly perceived me. The nasty rumor quickly reached my principal's ears, and then my worst nightmare came true. The principal immediately called me and my brother into his room, as well as our parents, so we could discuss these alleged rumors. I sat there, heart pounding, as the principal demanded the truth. I hoped my brother would finally come clean, but instead, he doubled down on the lies. He straight up told the principal that, yeah, the rumors were true, and painted me as this bully who went around beating him up when our parents weren't around. Couldn't believe it. Shock washed over me as my brother continued spinning this twisted story about how I was angry at him for getting more love from our parents. It was all a bunch of lies, but he stuck to his story like glue. My mom began to cry hearing my brother's story, holding on to my brother like he was some kind of hero. My dad tried to comfort my brother, telling him that it was brave for him to speak up and that he was going to make sure that nothing would ever happen to him after that day. I tried to defend myself, pleading with the principal that it was all made up. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of accusations, desperately trying to swim to the surface, but my brother kept at it, insisting that I was this angry, violent person taking out my frustrations on him every day. My mom's tears kept coming as she held on to my brother, giving me accusing looks. It was like fighting against a wall of belief in my brother's made-up story. My principal reprimanded me strongly, saying the school didn't tolerate bullying and these were grounds to suspend me. I pleaded with him not to suspend me, but he shook his head, saying he couldn't just let it slide. I begged him, tears streaming down my face, trying to tell him that I didn't do anything to my brother. The principal firmly told me that I would be suspended for 10 days so that others would see this as an example to never bully anyone. It hit me hard, and I started crying even more, practically begging him to reconsider. My parents, angry and embarrassed by the whole situation, dragged me out of the principal's office. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to plead my case and make them understand, but they were having none of it. We left the school, my heart heavy with frustration and humiliation. When we got home, things took a drastic turn. My dad started packing up my stuff out of the blue. I was shocked, confused, and had no idea what was happening. My mom asked him what he was doing, but he just shouted that he couldn't let me live in the same house as my brother anymore. I was crying, practically on my knees, and pleaded with my brother to tell them the truth, but he stayed cold, unmoved by my emotions. My dad continued packing my things and then threw the suitcase into our foyer. I clung to my dad's legs, still begging him not to throw me out. It was like a nightmare unfolding. He told me that a bully like me didn't deserve to live in his house and that he would ask his mother, my grandmother, to come and pick me up if she wanted to do that. It felt like the world had crumbled beneath me. I stood there in shock, surrounded by my belongings scattered in the foyer, kicked out of my own home. Eventually, my grandmother did show up. She gathered all my things and helped me place them in the car. Helping me into the passenger seat, she made sure I had my seat belt on before walking towards my parents' front door. She rang the doorbell, and when my dad opened the door, she started to yell at him for treating me this way. With stern determination, she warned him that if he ever approached me or tried to contact me again, she wouldn't hesitate to involve the police or the CPS, since what he had done to a child like me could potentially wind up with him in jail. My mother, attempting to deflect blame, told her that it was my fault. However, my grandmother wasn't having any of it. She stood her ground, defending me, emphasizing that I was just a child who didn't deserve to be treated in such a heartless manner. That was the first time in my life I felt how powerful my grandmother was. She didn't cower down to my parents, and unlike what they believed, she trusted me. Eventually, we drove away, leaving behind my home, the only place I had ever grown up in. I can't even begin to put into words how indescribable the pain I felt during that time. I remember just crying on the bed and not eating anything, despite how much my grandmother urged me to. I told her what my brother had done, and she was shocked as well. She assured me that she believed my side of the story, and I was happy that I at least had one person who had my back. When the 10 days of suspension lifted, the prospect of returning to school felt like stepping back into a lion's den. As I entered the familiar hallways, the faces of my classmates spoke volumes. Judgment, whispers, and sidelong glances. The weight of the false accusations continued to linger in the air. Meanwhile, my brother blatantly ignored me and acted like I didn't exist. He had become friends with a few people who believed his side of the story and saw him as the victim of my attacks. No matter how much I tried to tell my side of the story to anyone, it fell on deaf ears. I was an outcast, branded with an unjust label that clung to me like a shadow. No matter where I went, the classroom, the cafeteria, the corridors, the eyes that met mine were filled with disdain and mistrust. I became a loner. I would keep my head down and attend all my classes, have lunch alone in the cafeteria, and would straight go back home. I had no friends, and it felt like everyone pretty much didn't want me there. Throughout all this, my parents never once called to check up on me. My grandmother would constantly remind me that this was not my fault and that life would eventually be okay. I graduated high school with good grades and was looking forward to college, where hopefully I would have a better life. It was only when I went away to college that I first experienced what freedom felt like. For the first time, no one was watching over my shoulders, no one was comparing my grades, and no one was trying to compete with me. I met people and formed friendships with like-minded individuals. Despite the emotional and physical scars I had sustained over the years due to my family and peers, I concentrated on putting it all behind me and enjoying this college experience as much as I could. During this time, I discovered my knack for content writing. I had always been someone who wanted to be a writer, but I wasn't sure if it would be sustainable for a long time. Hence, I decided to ditch my dream, but to earn some side money, I decided to start writing as a freelancer. I signed up on various freelancing sites, which helped me secure jobs from prominent clients. This is how I slowly started building a portfolio of my work. Throughout college, I maintained this side hustle and never asked for a penny from my parents. When I graduated from college, instead of getting a corporate job, I realized that I could pursue content writing as a full-time job. I was doing quite well because of the multiple clients and the long-term professional relationships I had with them, which allowed them to rope me into multiple projects of theirs. Having a legitimate freelancing career not only made me financially independent but also allowed me to travel the world as a digital nomad. Traveling helped heal me from my past, even though it was definitely not easy. I saved up as much as I could and took a chance on myself. Over the years, I have seen so much of the world, and yet I have so much of it left to see. The only person who I considered my family throughout all this was my grandmother, and I absolutely adored her. She was very sad when I moved out, but she understood that I needed to be independent on my own. Despite my hectic schedule, I would make it a point to be there for her whenever I could. I would visit her on the weekends, often sharing meals together or simply sitting on the porch engrossed in conversations that ranged from childhood tales to more recent happenings. On weekends, I would dedicate entire afternoons to helping her with household chores or accompanying her to the local park for a leisurely walk. Recently, I got done with one of the most important projects of my career. I can't mention the brand, but I was extremely lucky to write blogs and product descriptions for them. After the project was done, I requested the team I worked with to leave me positive reviews on my websites, which they were more than happy to do. I then took screenshots of some of their reviews to post on my Instagram as I knew working with this brand was a huge deal. As expected, a lot of other content writers reached out to congratulate me on my professional success and even reposted my story to help spread the word. This is how I started getting messages from strangers who also needed help with their website. My relatives noticed this as well, and some of them reached out to congratulate me. Eventually, I was contacted by my college's principal. He had reached out to me after seeing that I was doing so well and wanted me to come to college for a seminar to talk to students about building a career as a content writer. I was quite nervous as I don't do well when it comes to public speaking, but I decided to take a chance and agreed. When I found myself standing before eager faces, sharing my experiences and insights, I felt like my life had come full circle. I spoke in my speech about the struggles I faced and how I worked hard to sustain myself despite all the hard days. It was honestly a very fulfilling experience to empower others and contribute to the growth of the writers' community. Some of my clips started going viral on Facebook groups as people resonated with it. It felt good to be finally recognized for my hard work. Last week, I was invited to speak at a local news channel. It was a show about the benefits of content writing, and they invited me to share my journey and insights with their viewers. I was a bit nervous but also excited for the opportunity. During the show, I talked about my experiences, the importance of client reviews, and how a simple appreciation post could open doors to incredible opportunities. The opportunity to reach a broader audience and inspire more individuals in the field was both humbling and exhilarating. When it finally aired, I shared some of these clips on my Instagram also, as I was proud about being invited to a TV show. This is how my relatives and cousins started finding out how well I was doing in my career. You see, because my parents never talked about me to anyone, they had no idea that I was working with popular brands and getting invited to TV shows. This is how word quickly spread within my family. I guess this TV interview must have finally reached my parents' ears also, because just a few days later, I was working on another project and had my phone on silent. When I was done with my work, I checked my phone and to my surprise, there were 6 missed calls from my mom. I was honestly shocked to see her name on my phone, as it had been a long time since she had called me. After all those years of silence, I couldn't fathom why she was calling me. I hesitatingly called her back, and she picked up immediately. I asked her if everything was okay, and my mom started to congratulate me. My dad, probably sitting right there with mom, jumped into the conversation also. He started to inquire about my life and well-being, and I answered their questions without much thought. It didn't strike me as unusual until they began to ask how much I was earning these days. I told them that it was none of their business, and my dad replied that we were family, so I shouldn't feel shy telling them my income. I told him that I was doing well financially. Hearing this, my mom then began to say how hard their life was these days. My brows furrowed in suspicion. Basically, here is how our conversation pretty much went. Mom, we are retired now, and we have been wanting to renovate the house for a while now. It's not in the best shape, but we have no savings left. Me, okay. Mom, your success has given us hope. After watching your TV interview today, we thought maybe you could help us out by paying for the renovations. Dad, after all, we are a family. You shouldn't hesitate to share some of your earnings with us. We can really use your help. Me, are you joking with me? Why are you asking me for money when you haven't even talked to me for years? I don't know what made you decide to reach out to me. And while I appreciate the congratulations, I am not going to help you out in any way. Hearing this, my mom started saying how I was being an a-hole and that I needed to support them as a family. My dad also added that as my parents, they deserved to be looked after and that this was the least that I could do. I was so pissed at this that I wanted to give them a piece of my mind. I suddenly got an idea that instead of just arguing with them, I should teach them a lesson forever, thinking that they could mooch off me after mistreating me all those years ago. I told my parents that I was willing to help them if and only if they agreed to my demands. My dad curiously asked me what it was. Without hesitation, I laid out my demand. If they wanted my help, they had to publicly admit in front of our family and friends that my brother was the mastermind behind the hurtful rumors that had tarnished my reputation. I wanted them to humiliate my brother the same way they had humiliated me in front of everyone by believing his lies and manipulations. I wanted them to take accountability for their actions and acknowledge the pain they had caused. Hearing my impossible condition, my dad began to question the necessity of such an admission. My mom told me how this was all quite unnecessary and that we could have a private discussion without involving others, but I held my ground. This condition was non-negotiable, a prerequisite for any assistance they wanted me to offer them in the future. As the tension escalated, my dad raised his voice, asserting his role as my father, and started to emphasize that it was my duty to help my family in need. My mom, in a last-ditch effort, urged me to do the right thing and help them, emphasizing the years they had spent raising me. I couldn't help but find irony in their sudden appeal. I reminded them of the past, of the fact that they had kicked me out and it was my grandmother who had raised me, not them. They started to get more and more agitated, but I told them firmly that if they wanted to establish contact with me and seek my financial assistance from now on, then the truth needed to be acknowledged publicly, and my brother needed to face consequences for his actions. Since this conversation, my parents have been trying to incessantly call me, but I am ignoring their calls. I am starting to regret even calling them back that day. I would like to know if I would really be in a hole if I didn't help my parents at all. Update 1. It's been a whirlwind of a week since I last shared my story, and the support and encouragement I have been receiving from everyone has been overwhelming. It's heartening to know that I'm not alone during this time. I am glad that everyone agrees that I should not engage with my parents or even consider helping them out after what they put me through. The reason I even gave them such a condition was because I knew it was pretty much impossible for them to do it. I know they love my brother too much, and despite the fact that they might have found out by now that it was all his lies, I know they will never put him through what they put me through. Today, my brother sent me a nasty text message after my parents again tried to contact me, and I refused to pick up their calls. This is what he wrote. "Hey sis, it's been a long time since I saw you and I can tell you that every day without you in my life has been great. I heard that mom and dad reached out to you and you gave them a crazy ultimatum. They are never going to go through with it, you know that, right? They clearly never loved you, and they will never do anything to hurt me. I admit that I did lie about you 15 years ago, but it's been a long time since then, so stop being so selfish and try to move on from the past. You are unmarried and childless anyway, so why do you not want to help them out by paying for their repairs and renovations around the house? Do the right thing and be a better daughter." Seeing the message felt like a stab to my chest. The audacity to dismiss the struggles I had faced and the conditions I had set spoke volumes about his lack of empathy. The attempt to guilt-trip me by emphasizing my unmarried and childless status added another layer of insensitivity. His insinuation that I should prioritize their needs over my own well-being was not only offensive but also highlighted how little he thought of me. Fueled by frustration and a strong desire for justice, I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands and reveal the truth that had been hidden for too long. I sat down to write an email to my parents and close relatives, sharing the painful details of my childhood and the unfair treatment I had endured while growing up at my family house. In the email, I described the strict and oppressive environment I had under my parents' roof and how they treated me compared to my twin brother. The email also delved into the malicious and completely untrue rumor my brother had spread about me in school, which had led to severe consequences and affected my reputation. I wrote how my parents had kicked me out to the curb, and had it not been for my grandmother, I might have been dead in the streets by now. Towards the end, I asked everyone to read a message my brother had sent me. I attached a screenshot where he admitted to lying about me. It was a clear confession that I hoped would expose the lies that had persisted for too long. I sent the email just an hour ago, and I know that all hell will break loose once my parents and my brother read it. I will update you next regarding how my family reacts to my email. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot of things have happened this month. As you can imagine, my family did erupt after receiving the email. My parents have received criticism from relatives who were previously unaware of the extent of the favoritism and emotional abuse. A lot of the family members reached out to me telling me that they had no idea about all this and apologized to me for not being there for me. My brother and my parents sent me a barrage of text messages that were starting to get more abusive and violent, so I decided to reach out to a lawyer who sent them a notice of cease and desist. It basically warned them to not contact me further, and if they did, they would have to face dire legal consequences. I guess this must have scared them straight because they stopped contacting me. My grandmother thinks I have done the right thing by letting everyone know what happened and supports me 100%. She is the only person who matters to me, so I'm glad she has my back. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update. I am happy to report that everything in my life is going well for now. Professionally, my content writing business has been flourishing. The invitations to speak at seminars and podcasts continue to roll in, solidifying my position as a respected figure in my line of work. I am as close to my grandmother as ever. I took a 1-week break from my work recently so I could spend some quality time with her. She is into gardening these days and educated me a lot about various flowers and herbs in her garden. The moments I spent with her, whether sharing meals, engaging in heartfelt conversations, or simply enjoying each other's company, are my favorite and cherished memories. My family has not contacted me after the letter they received from my lawyer, so I'm happy that they are staying away from me. Personally, I have started going to therapy, so hopefully I can work on healing myself. I think this will be the last update for now. Now on to the next story. Story 8. My wife keeps throwing divorce in my face over everything I do. I just said, okay, and left. I am currently staying with my sister. My wife and I have been together for 5 years, married for 4. We had known each other for years prior. We have 1 kid together who is 4. I am the primary breadwinner in the house, as she is a stay-at-home mom. It was her choice not to go back to work. For the last 1.5 years, we have been having arguments about 1 to 2 times a month. To be clear, I do help out with our daughter. I clean, cook, and am involved with both of them. The first time she said she wanted a divorce was when we got into an argument when my sister called and asked if she could stay with us for a bit as she was having relationship problems. Ironic, I said she could. My wife was not happy about that. I pointed out that her friend stayed with us a couple of months prior for 5 weeks and didn't do anything around the house. Plus, she was just there, no discussion, no nothing. She was a stranger to me and my daughter. My sister is lovely and has a great relationship with our daughter, and I thought my wife was as well. She ended up staying with us for a week, helping out around the house, cooking, cleaning, and watching our daughter when needed. I thought we both forgave each other and moved on. The fights are usually over something small. 90% are not started by me. I have suggested therapy and counseling, but she always said we never needed it. Well, I had it last night. She picked a fight saying I was spending too much time at work and that she feels abandoned and that I'm not a good father. She ended her rant with, "I want a divorce." I stood up and told her that the only reason I work so much is because she can't stop spending. My edit. At the time of the argument, I used our money. Typing it out, it came out as my money by accident. We agreed to split the money into bills, future savings, future daughter, and fun money. Money on things we don't need or use. She refused to get a job or go to school to help her out. I provide for the family, for my daughter. I'm always at her important dates, functions, doctor's appointments, anything she needs. She refused to get help through therapy or counseling. I don't want this anymore. I'll have my lawyer send her the papers when she writes it up. I got my daughter's things and left with her to my sister's. It has been 2 days, and she keeps calling and texting saying she is sorry. She didn't mean it. She wants to go to counseling and therapy. She needs me. She misses me, etc. I don't know what to do. I love her. She is a good mother, but I can't do this anymore. Internet strangers, please help. Yes, I have a lawyer for my family and work. I have known her since I was a teen. Update. Hello all, unfortunately, this is not a sunshine and rainbows update. I posted a few months back about how my wife kept throwing divorce in my face on a regular basis. That was until I said, okay, got my daughter, and left. I needed to vent, so I posted here, check profile for original. To clarify some questions I have gotten, I'll refer to one of my comments on my August post. I want to point out some things that it seems were missed or overlooked. I would do everything again if I had to, including taking my daughter. I have pushed her wife to go out, find a job, get a hobby, meet new friends, and do something, anything. I asked about seeing someone for help. She would not listen or consider anything I have presented. She kept saying no or she was not the problem. My daughter is my priority. I don't fight with my wife in front of her or around her. I grew up in a bad household. I have been in the position where my dad got angry at my mom left, and my dad took it out on me. I don't ever want that for her. I don't know what my wife was going to do that night. You can't force someone to get help. They have to want it, actually want it. If you force someone, they will go through the motions just to make it look like they changed. I'm not blameless in this, but I can't raise my daughter with her thinking this is okay behavior or this is how relationships are supposed to be like. I decided when I was young that I would never be like my dad. Okay, so after I made my post, I had a bunch to think about. I decided that I had to make sure she knew how serious I was. We sat down, and I flat out told her that I couldn't do this anymore. The fighting and threatening of divorce has to stop. She agreed and said she would not say it. I told her that the next time it was thrown out, it would be the last time. We agreed to go to couples therapy. It was eye-opening. Things were said, feelings were brought up, and outside professional views helped us understand each other better. After a few sessions, I thought we were doing better. She started to apply herself more. She looked for and obtained a job, made some friends, and got a hobby. That was until an argument started because we had plans in regards to our daughter that she overlooked and couldn't cancel the other plans she had made with some new coworkers. At what I considered the end of the argument, she said under her breath, "I knew marrying you was a mistake." I looked at her, and the thing I remember most is how I did not recognize the woman that was standing there. She looked different to my eyes. I didn't know who the woman in front of me was. I asked her to repeat herself. She said, "I should have divorced you years ago." I walked away and took my daughter to the plans alone. Just us two. I ended up filing for legal separation. Under the terms we both signed was something along the lines of, while separated, we are still legally married and will not get involved with anyone during this time period. Finances will be separated, but bills will stay as currently split. I would still pay for insurance through work. Other things that were in it were therapy sessions would continue, both as individuals and couples. I would move in with my sister, and we had shared custody of our daughter, 70% me, 30% her. One day when I had my daughter, I needed my wife to take her. I let her know a week before and she agreed. The morning of, at 7:30, I went to drop her off at the house and noticed an unfamiliar car in the driveway. My first thought was she must have a friend/girlfriend over. I ring the doorbell out of respect, but still odd ringing your own doorbell, and wait with my daughter. When a shirtless man, about 20, opens the door and asks who am I and what do I want. I asked for my wife. He calls her. and she comes around the corner in a robe, and her face goes from curious, shocked, horrified, sad. Needless to say, in 3 months' time, when the legal separation ends, I'm filing for a decree of dissolution of marriage. My daughter is safe. She doesn't understand what's going on other than Daddy and Mommy are not happy. As stated above, she is my priority. I guess I did do the one thing I never wanted to do, the one thing I promised myself I would never become. But I guess it could be helped. I ended up just like my parents. I don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. I hope I can just show how much love I have for my daughter and raise her the best I can. Thanks for the support, comments, love, and criticism. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Son loves to wear pink sparkly jackets, which looked gay, and got bullied so bad I had to homeschool him. I'm a single dad to my son, Oliver, 10M. He's with me most of the time and sees his mom every other weekend. He's an awesome kid, creative, full of energy, and he's got his own sense of style that's pretty unique. He loves bright colors, nail polish, and clothes that some people might think are more girly. If I'm honest, I think Oliver might be gay, and I'm totally cool with that. I've always made it clear that whoever he turns out to be, I'll support him 100%. Because of how he dresses and acts, Oliver had a really tough time with other kids. He got bullied so badly at his old school that I ended up pulling him out and homeschooling him. The school wasn't helpful at all, and it was heartbreaking to see him go through that. He struggled to make friends, and it kills me to see him feel so alone. Now he's starting back at school in September, and he's really excited about it. But recently, we were at a cousin's birthday party, and Oliver wore his favorite jacket, which is a bright pink sparkly one that he loves. Some of the other kids started picking on him, saying he looked gay. I stepped in, got the kids to apologize, but it ruined the day for Oliver. I'm worried about how things will go when he's back at school. I've been thinking about whether I should talk to Oliver about maybe toning it down a bit, especially when he's around new people. Not because I want him to change who he is, but because I hate seeing him get hurt and feel like an outcast. I don't want him to feel like he has to hide who he is, but I also don't want him to be picked on or excluded because of it. But then I feel like a complete ass for even thinking about this. I don't want him to think that I'm ashamed of him or that he has to conform to be accepted. I want him to feel free to be himself, but I'm also scared of him being hurt by others who don't get it. So, what if I talk to Oliver about maybe being a bit more low-key with his style? Comments where OP has replied, Commenter, don't do it. Kids will still bully him, and all he will remember is that you deterred him from expressing himself. Trust me, the same thing occurred in our house. I was trying to keep him from being bullied, but my child felt as though I didn't accept him and that he needed to pretend was something he wasn't. Lots of later life therapy. If he's gay, if he's straight, let him be himself and tell him as long as he likes his clothes, that's all that matters. Sincerely, the mom of an amazing queer kid. OP. I get that, but at the same time, it is so heartbreaking seeing the same thing happen to him over and over and over again. Commenter. Jesus, where do you live? Most kids don't care about this kind of thing these days. OP. I live in the West Midlands of England. I honestly don't think your point about most kids not caring is at all accurate. I see it every day. Commenter. Do not dull his shine because other people don't understand him. I understand it may be coming from a place of protection, but it needs to be addressed with the potential aggressors, not with forcing your son to change who he is. OP. But when you can't do anything more with potential aggressors. I have done and will continue to do everything I can, but sadly I can't literally watch his back 24/7, even though I would if I could. Anytime he has a comment made to him, he breaks his little heart, and it is so devastating seeing him go through that again and again. Update 1. September 7th, 2024. Hey all. It's been about 26 days since my original post, and I thought I'd give an update now that Oliver has had his first week back at school. I can happily say that so far, things are going much better than I'd hoped. Over the summer, Oliver and I had a really important heart-to-heart. I sat him down and told him just how incredibly proud I am of the person he is becoming. I made sure he knew that there is absolutely nothing he could ever do that would change the way I see him or make me love him any less. Honestly, it was a bit emotional, and I even got a bit choked up. I told him that if wearing his favorite jacket, the one that's caused some hurt before, made him happy, I'd stand behind him 100%. But I also wanted to make sure he was prepared. I explained that while I'll always be there for him, I can't always be around to protect him, and he might have to stand up for himself if kids make fun of him. I made it clear that this doesn't mean he should change anything about who he is, but that he needs to be ready to handle it if anyone says anything cruel. Oliver understood, and we spent the summer coming up with some playful comebacks together. He really wanted to take the jacket with him to school, so we made it a bit of a project, imagining the kind of things kids might say and crafting witty replies that he could fire back with. It was actually pretty fun, and I think it helped him feel more confident about it. Now back to school. His new teacher knows all about his past struggles with bullying, and she's been amazing. She's keeping a close eye on things and making sure he feels safe and comfortable. It's made such a difference already, and Oliver's first week couldn't have gone better. He's even made a friend, a boy named Sam, and they've really hit it off. They're planning to meet up tomorrow at the wacky warehouse, and Oliver can't stop talking about it. It's been a long time since I've seen him this excited about spending time with someone his age. I know it's still early days, but seeing him come home happy and smiling each day has been such a relief. Thanks to everyone who gave advice and encouragement on my original post. I really took a lot of it to heart, and I think it made a big difference in how I approached all this. Update 2. September 9th, 2024. Hey! I just wanted to hop on and give a small update about Oliver's playdate over the weekend. Firstly, when Oliver was getting ready, he wanted to wear all his flamboyant clothes. He asked me if I thought it was a good idea. His friend had seen him in his jacket, but he was a little worried how he would react to the full Oliver. I told him to wear whatever he wanted, and if this friend was worth being friends with, they would accept him for exactly how he is. This made Oliver smile. He wore his full Oliver outfit. When we were walking, I could feel Oliver getting a bit nervous. He was bullied so much in his last school for how he was, so I understood why. I held his hand tight and gave it 2 squeezes. This means, I love you. Something I learned to teach him from Reddit, actually. The friend's dad was with him, and he looked at Oliver and gave a little curious look. But apart from that, it was fine. The boy said he loved Oliver's clothes. They spent about 4 hours playing, and we ended up eating together. On the way home, I told Oliver how proud I am of the little man he is. I am so proud how he is so willing to be himself and so brave to continue despite any backlash he gets. I love him so much. This is my final update on this account. I don't know if I'll ever show you these posts, Oliver. Maybe in a few years when you're older so we can laugh at how worried I was about you. Your dad is so proud of you. I think you are the most amazing person in the whole world, even when you drive me absolutely nuts. I am so lucky to get to be your father. I am so lucky you are in my life. I love you. Now on to the next story. Story 10. Am I wrong for insisting my sister uphold her end of our custody agreement? So there's a lot of backstory here. My sister, Lily, F35, had my niece, Emma, F9, when she was 26. She was at the time living with my parents along with her then boyfriend, and they had both just gotten out of rehab for heroin addiction. Both her and her boyfriend were not able to stay clean for long, and she was using throughout her pregnancy. When Emma was almost 2 months, she came to me begging me to take Emma for 2 months while she checked into rehab again to get clean. I was 22 years old, living in an efficiency apartment while putting myself through law school, but my parents insisted they couldn't care for an infant and had suggested foster care to my sister. So I took my niece. When my sister got out of her rehab, she got back together with her boyfriend, who was still taking drugs, and thus began 5 years of a vicious cycle where one of them would get clean only to be dragged back under by the other. I took legal guardianship of Emma, although it was still supposed to be temporary. Every time Lily would bring up taking her back, I would agree on the condition that they both passed a drug test, and it simply never happened. When Emma was almost 6 years old, my sister came to me saying she was once again pregnant. This was the turning point for her, and she gave birth to my nephew having been clean for almost 8 months. Obviously, it was very hard for both me and Emma going from her living with me to moving back with her parents. We went to court and worked out a custody arrangement where I still have Emma every weekend, but she spends the week with her mom and dad. We attended family therapy all together for the first year, and once we settled on a routine, we stopped. Here comes the issue. My sister is once again pregnant, and she and her former boyfriend, now husband, say that they don't want to allow Emma to come with me weekends because apparently she comes home to them acting like a brat. I absolutely understand the issue. I explained to my sister that when Emma is with me, she is the center of attention, and going from that to having to fight her brother for her mom's limited attention between bouts of morning sickness has to be hard. I offered to take my nephew weekends as well to give my sister some rest or to possibly resume family therapy so Emma could work through these changes. My sister simply told me that Emma would be taking a break from spending time with me. I let her have 2 weekends with Emma, and then when she continued to stonewall me, I threatened to take her to court. We have a custody agreement in place, and I am still one of Emma's legal guardians. She said I'm throwing the past in her face and won't let her be a real mother to Emma. I'm conflicted. I raised Emma for almost 6 years, and I treasure every moment I spend with her. But am I getting in the way? Emma calls me every evening and asks what we are doing over the weekend and why I don't have time for her. So I think additionally my sister is spinning it as me not wanting her to come. I just want what's best for Emma. Reddit AITA? Edit. To clear up some misunderstandings. Emma is now 9. My sister has been clean for over 3 years. We transitioned Emma very slowly. She was with her parents every other weekend for a year, then we had a 50-50 split, and now I have weekends. For those saying I'm making it difficult for them to spend family time on weekends, I've always been flexible, and if they told me they had weekend plans, I would absolutely let them take Emma. This is not about them wanting to do stuff with Emma. This is about them not wanting me to do stuff with Emma. They sent her brother to my parents' house Saturday and Sunday so that they can unwind, and the past 2 weekends they sent Emma to her grandparents as well. So I don't see how it's that different if I take her. My sister is a stay-at-home mom. She does not work, so she has plenty of time with Emma. She is almost 300 pounds and rarely leaves the house, which always looks like a tornado hit. My parents purchased my sister a house when Emma was 3 in hopes that would help with her being able to regain custody. So with my brother-in-law working an IT job, they are able to make ends meet. I drive Emma to karate, swimming, and Girl Scouts every week, and I'm in constant contact with her to make sure she is doing well. My brother-in-law has relapsed twice in the past 3 years, but he was kicked out of the house both times, so Emma wasn't forced to witness anything. For those saying that they are using Emma as a babysitter, I really don't think so. My sister rarely leaves the house, and I make sure Emma has lots of activities because I think it's important that she is out of the house and active. Also, apparently, they recently let her watch her 3-year-old brother for 2 hours, and she was so excited that they paid her $20. Edit. So the comments about what might be happening at home with Emma really scared me. I reached out to the therapist Emma used to see and made an appointment for Friday after school. The way we always do appointments is she gets to talk to her therapist alone first, and then I come in and we talk together. I'm going to make sure she knows I will always have time for her and will always want her. I'm also going to ask whether she's happy living with her parents or whether she would prefer we to spend less time there. Wish me luck and thank you all for your feedback. Relevant comments info. SLC Curiosity on Law School. I finished law school almost 7 years ago. I worked as an ADA fresh out of law school, and now I work as a criminal defense attorney, occasionally working some family law cases. I'm taking a business certification in international law right now, as I was raised in Europe, now live in the States, and I was interested in possibly switching to being an attorney for an international company with the possibility of travel. Now I will have to take the kids into account with any job changes. I spent my childhood always traveling, and although I love the different cultures I was introduced to, I never had a chance to put down roots. Have your parents chimed in on this? My parents and I are taking a break from each other. When I filed for emergency custody, my parents were livid, and we both said some things. I understand their position. It really seemed like my sister's family had pulled it all together, and my parents thought I was trying to ruin that. I think that things changed when everything shook out. This is the first time they have refused to bail my sister out, but they haven't reached out, and I would rather give it some time. I'm sleep-deprived and overwhelmed right now, and I don't want to say anything more I might regret. Update. Hey, I've had so many people reach out for an update, but the last month has been so crazy. So in short, my sister gave birth, and I now have custody of all 3 children. I took Emma to an emergency therapy session, and she revealed a lot of mental manipulation that Lily had been doing. Apparently, my sister told her that she had to beg me to take her as a baby, that I had never wanted her, and gave her back as soon as I was able. Giving my sister credit where it is due, I did not originally want to take my niece in. I was in my first year of law school, living in an efficiency apartment, and flat broke. The idea of caring for an infant, even for just a couple months while in school, was scary, and I didn't know how I would manage. I relied heavily on government assistance and my parents. That didn't mean I didn't love her or that I wanted to give her back. I was trying to do what I thought was best for her at every turn. After the therapy session, I filed for an emergency custody order citing parental alienation, but also the ace up my sleeve that my sister was using marijuana, which violated her conditions under which she could have custody. It's not legal in my state, and she doesn't have a prescription either. So I requested a drug test and a home visit, as I also cited the state of the home. I had said that the house was a mess, but it was to the point of being a health hazard and a hoarding situation. I was granted emergency custody, and CPS showed up at my sister's door on the following Monday. I knew this much was going to happen. I said on my previous post that I was confident in the fact I could get custody back, and that is because I was aware of her use of weed. To be clear, I didn't see it as a problem. She gets migraines and uses it. However, I was not above weaponizing it if need be. This is, however, where everything went off the rails unexpectedly. Some people on the last post said that I clearly dislike my sister. I don't. I love her, and I think that most of her troubles are due to her trusting nature and the people she surrounds herself with. However, I will be clear. I hate my brother-in-law. When CPS arrived, they found that my brother-in-law had been growing not only marijuana in the basement but also psychedelic mushrooms. When they drug tested both of them, they found not only marijuana in their systems but several other drugs, including fentanyl, which was probably laced with whatever they were using. They immediately removed my nephew and reached out to me to take him. They were both arrested on charges related to my brother-in-law's horticultural activities in the basement. I can honestly say I didn't see it. I knew she was depressed, but I didn't see any signs of her using again, and the fact that she was pregnant and using words can't express my betrayal. I adjusted to life with 2 kids very quickly, but I knew that she was going to have another infant soon. So I visited my pregnant sister in jail and I made a deal with her. She gave up all parental rights to all 3 kids in exchange for me paying her bail and providing her with an attorney so that she had the best possible chance of avoiding jail time. Unfortunately, I had to also bail my brother-in-law out and pay for his attorney fees. She gave birth a week ago. Thankfully, she didn't have to give birth in jail, and thankfully, my second nephew seems to be healthy despite her drug and alcohol use. I have full custody of Emma and both her brothers and am in the process of filing for legal adoption, which is far different than guardianship, but I don't have doubts I will be successful given both parents signed away their rights. I know I'm doing the right thing. The past has shown me that I don't want to be in limbo waiting for her to be clean long enough to take the kids back. It has also proven to me that I can't trust her. I don't want to co-parent with someone who will lie and manipulate like she did. Emma is thriving. I have literally never seen her happier, and despite some sleepless nights, the baby and I are doing well. I worry most for my 3-year-old nephew, Ian. He is doing well so far, but I don't think it has sunk in that this is permanent. We will definitely be doing family therapy. I hope that I have covered everything. Thank you so much to everyone who convinced me that everything was not right with Emma. Without you, I don't like to think what could have happened. Edit. I've seen a lot of concern in the comments about my sister having another baby. It is very unlikely. The reason she had Emma in the first place was because she wasn't on any form of birth control because she thought she couldn't get pregnant. When she was a teenager, she had to have one of her ovaries removed, and the doctor said there was very little chance of getting pregnant. Emma was breech when she was born, so my sister had to have a cesarean, and thus had a cesarean with both other children. According to the doctor, when my latest nephew was born, there were complications, and due to extensive scarring in addition to only one ovary, the doctor told her that it's very unlikely she will have more children. It's not impossible that she could have another child, But the chances are so low that, with everything else I need to worry about, I am choosing not to worry about that for the time being. Relevant comments info. On the transition, slow things happened. I would never let them sever our bond. We were very slow to transition her. They had her every other weekend for almost a year before we switched her primary residence. I know that I could easily get custody back. I'm a lawyer, and I not only know every loophole in the law, I know the people in the system, which is why I don't doubt I could regain custody. And what if I thought that she wasn't safe? I just don't know if that's the right move. Emma makes it clear that she considers me a mom, but my sister harbors so much guilt for not being there and is trying so hard to be the best mother possible. It's hard to see the forest through the trees. We transitioned slowly, so they had weekends for the first year, then we had a 50-50 split for almost a year, and now I've had weekends for almost a year. On Emma's behavior, she was doing really well until my sister got pregnant again. She loved having a little brother, and she had started calling my sister Mom for the first time. I'm paying for her to attend the private school she attended preschool and kindergarten for, and she was really doing well with a stable social group and teachers. Apparently, she started coming back from her weekends with me, and she wouldn't listen to her parents for the first 2 to 3 days of the week, and by the time my sister felt Emma was following house rules, it was time for my weekend, and the cycle just kept repeating. And yes, my sister has openly admitted that she is jealous of me, not only of my bond with Emma but also of the fact that I can financially afford to provide Emma with a lot that she can't. She says I spoil her, and I'll openly admit I do. She's my girl, and I want to give her the world. From what I understand, she simply doesn't listen when they tell her to do things like do the dishes or get off the iPad. It's hard because we don't really have the same dynamic. I have her out of the house all day during the weekend doing activities, and I don't let her have screen time except right after dinner sometimes, and I have a dishwasher so she just puts her dishes away. But I've never had any issues with her listening to me. Guilt. I have a lot of guilt associated with Emma calling me Mom. She called me Mom for the first 3 years of her life. Then my sister came to visit, and when Emma called me Mom, she had a breakdown screaming, crying, and asking how could I let Emma think I was her mother. It really scared and confused Emma, and when my parents got involved, it was decided that Emma should call me something else. Anything else. There is no consensus bot on AITA, but the majority of opinions seem to be NTA. That's the end of today's stories. Thank you for listening. If it made you think, feel, or just escape for a while, smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss our future stories. See you next time.